Did we go?
Hey, it's Ryan Kaiser, winner of the 2016 Durham Warriors Survival Challenge, and you're listening to Survivor Talk with D&D. Now, I may have lied and schmoozed like crazy on my way to becoming the DWSC King, but trust me when I say you're in good hands with these two podcasting kings themselves, David and Dwayne.
Hello, everyone out there in listening land. Thank you for allowing us to share our banter with you. I'm Dwayne, the producer and color commentator, and I am here with David, the smart one. Who are we? We are just two best friends talking about the show we love, Survivor. Hello, David. It has been a while. It's like I haven't seen you all summer.
You know, you can tell we've hit another level. We've reached the next plateau. Well, I wouldn't say plateau. I guess the next level of achievement because we have 2 intro songs now instead of 1 intro song.
Yeah.
So it takes 2 songs to get us on the air and not just 1.
It takes two.
It's more our doing. It's not anybody else's doing, but still, it's kind of cool. We have 2 songs now.
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
Now the problem is our 3 guests probably don't even recognize the second song.
Of course not, because it's like from the 70s or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I only watched reruns. But anyway, if you know it, great. If you don't, Shazam it. All right. So let's see. David, what have you? Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that later. So, David, I see we have 2 Durham Warriors Survival Challenge winners and then some other guys. So would you care to introduce them and tell our listeners what in the world we're doing recording in the middle of the summer?
Well, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So we'll start with our friend from Maryland who's got his own Survivor World up there, and I'm going to let him tell us about that. This is Austin.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me as the other guy.
That's right. Austin Trupp. Oh, wait, no, Trupp. Sorry.
Close. My family says no M, no money. That's our go-to. Yeah. So I am the host, producer of Survivor Maryland, and that kind of led me to playing Durham Warriors, where I was not a winner. Spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. But I'm really excited to join you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we will be spoiling the most recent season as we talked. There is no pre-spoiler segment. It is all spoilers.
It's all spoiler.
Our second guest is a regular for this show. He's a regular commentator and blogger. He's smarter than I am, but we try. That's why we don't bring him on every week. That's why we don't bring him on every week.
That's right.
Everybody knows this is. Don't be fooled by the crown. This is Ryan Kaiser.
That's right.
Hey, it's the King of Durham. Also, great new intro, by the way.
Thank you. I don't know who that is, but he imitates your voice very well.
Perfection.
That's right.
Perfection. All right, and the best for last is the most recent crowned queen, which is a higher rank than last year's king.
And that does not mean Ryan and her that like Ryan has inherited a queen. Sorry, Ryan. Ain't happening.
Because I'd rather win in a close vote than a blowout vote. And we call that.
That's fine.
David, this is what you get out free.
I'm just trying to build it up because she's awesome. So this is say hello to Bethany.
Hi.
Hello, Bethany.
Thank you guys for having me. I personally would have rather won in a blowout vote, but you take what you can get.
Yeah. So David requested that we just keep you on the screen the whole time. That's what he said.
Oh.
Right? Okay. No.
We
Go
might
ahead,
have a
David.
visitor from my end too. So just
Is it the kitty cat? Is it the kitty cat?
It's a kitty.
Yeah. I'm
I love
recording on the
kitty
floor
cats.
right now because I'm moving, so she's roaming around.
I love kitty cats. Okay, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Oh no, I thought you were just taking along. So, but yeah, as most everybody knows that follows any of us on Facebook and our Facebook group that we just experienced a few weeks ago. It's been that long. The most recent 2017 Durham Warriors Survival Challenge, and with the rain and the heat and the sun and everything else, it was great. Do we do it now? I'm trying to read the notes and I'm trying not to look down at my computer. So, is there anything else I need to talk about?
Yeah,
or
tell them the name of the show.
The show is Survivor Talk with D&D. But what do you mean?
The name of the episode, then, smart Alex.
The name of the episode that we came together. Thanks to Dwayne, is called Winner Winner Chicken Dinner.
That's
and
right.
Yes, Austin.
So basically, I'm the winner, Bethany's the winner, then Austin's the chicken dinner.
That is an unfortunate, yet very funny ramification.
I
That's
just think
'cause,
so the food chain, it keeps going.
Yeah. Well,
that's how it works.
You are the fanboy with Probst in the background. Just saying. There you go.
All right.
All
so
right.
moving on. We're going to start with Bethany. So she was the winner. I want to ask Bethany.
Yeah.
How about we get to my couple of announcements, David? Just if you
I
don't
just
mind.
asked you, is there anything else that needs to be covered, or was I supposed to just keep going? Because I'm trying to read the notes, not trying to read the notes. Why do you give me notes? Just tell me when to stop talking.
Guys, I just endorsed you. Like,
Oh, the joy. See, this is why people like us, because David gets irritated when he doesn't read the notes. And
I'll
I
be
get
back in 5 minutes. Go ahead.
I'll bust you up the head. We have a new recording and release schedule for our show. And I promise you we're going to get right to all the good stuff. But I got to tell you 2 announcements. The majority of our shows are recorded on Thursday nights. So our public release of our shows will be on Saturday morning. They will be available when you wake up. All right. But when we do a special recording like tonight, which is Tuesday night, the public release will be the morning after the next day. In other words, tonight's show will be available on Thursday morning, unless you're watching it live, and then you're watching it now. All right. Everyone can watch live. And as a thank you to all of our D&D patrons, all 33 of them, they really go above and beyond to support us financially, so they get instant access to the episode as soon as it is produced and uploaded. So they get it a day early. So thank you, patrons. And as we all prepare for Stranger Things Season 2, David and I will be discussing each episode of Season 1 beginning Thursday, August 3rd at 9 p.m. And we will approach it as though we have not seen it. David, because we are professionals, we can do this, right?
Yeah, I guess I need to tell the wife.
Yeah, you might want to. I went ahead and put a big old podcasting schedule through August. Remember that one I made? I put it on the refrigerator. Said, honey, look.
Well, I put these 3. This is our first of 3 Durham Warriors, and I wrote big podcast letters on the calendar, but I guess I got to do one for August now.
Yeah, basically our Thursday nights are taken again.
She's going to love that.
Yeah, well, hey, it's the life of busy people. All right, David, go for it.
You went to Maine. Why do you got to keep podcasting? So, see, I'm not the guy that reads all the instructions. So when I read David takes it from here, I didn't read anything else.
Yeah, he didn't read the next part that said David turns it over for me. All right, go ahead.
So anyway, all right. So I want to ask Bethany and
Dave.
Austin. I know you're always here. Just mute yourself. You're fine.
Okay.
So I want to start with Bethany and Austin. We've already done this with Ryan last year. But I want to ask you guys your level of fandom. I kind of got an idea, but I want our listeners to know your level of Survivor fandom. Why? What turned you towards Durham Warriors? And what did you do for your video? And what did you do to prepare in about 90? No, just take your time. But we'll start with Bethany.
I forgot where we started. So level of Survivor fandom. I guess I started watching the show season 2. I think I was 9. And then I obviously went back and watched Borneo, and I've seen every season at least once, mostly more than that, depending on what it is. Like when I was studying for the CPA exam, I just watched old seasons over and over and over again. But I wouldn't say like I didn't recognize John Raymond. I never would have recognized him in a million years. So I'm not like that level of Survivor fan, but somewhere in the middle.
What did you do for your video for your application?
I honestly don't even like, I was actually an alternate too. So don't listen to what I did with my video, because obviously it wasn't that good. I basically just like sat and talked about myself. And it worked out sort of. But and then to prepare, honestly, I listened to y'all's show with Ryan last year about a week before I went out, and he mentioned not drinking coffee, and I panicked because I drink a pot of coffee a day. So like that moment, I stopped drinking coffee and was like popping Advil to get through the withdrawal. But other than that, that was like the extent of my preparation.
that was by far the best thing I did last year, for sure. Because like, the 2 days I went off it, I was like in so much pain. And then I was like on an Advil rotation, and everyone at work like knew to avoid me because I was like, I'm off caffeine. Do not talk to me because I will not be nice to you.
Yeah, I went off caffeine about February, and actually I didn't play till August because I knew I'd have problems with it. Yeah, and started working.
Yeah.
So Austin,
7 days was not enough.
7. No, it's not enough. Talk to Zeke. Was it? No, not Zeke. Zane. He did the 24-hour quit, so that didn't work too well either.
God.
David, you were off caffeine from February to August?
I was.
And we actually did podcasts, and you survived.
I survived. Where's the song for that? So,
I survived. Okay, back to eating.
So Austin, before you tell us your answers to those questions, did you recognize John Raymond when you got out there into the woods?
Oh, you know the answer to this. I did not. I went up to John Raymond, who was on my initial walkthrough, and I said, I'm just like trying to connect with everybody, and I'm like, John, like he said his name was John, so I was like, John, that's a really nice Survivor Thailand buff, and he was like, thanks, man. And I was like, actually, like, wasn't there a John on Survivor Thailand? And he was like, yeah, the guy just sounded just like me. And it still took me like 3 seconds after that. And then I got it, and I was like, oh, my gosh.
What's great is that we have it on video. Will and I are cracking up, dying, laughing. And the best part is
I'm so glad that
I have not told Dwayne any of these stories. So Dwayne's going to be hearing all these stories for the first time. So he's trying to eat, spitting out his food at Austin, not recognizing a survivor right in front of him. So right. that I wanted to get that out first. But answer those other questions as to getting into the game.
Yeah, so contrary to what you may believe now, I am definitely a huge Survivor fan. I didn't actually get into it until my first season was Heroes vs. Villains, which is kind of weird. I listened to Bill Simmons' sports podcast, and he kept talking about Survivor, and I was like, I guess I'll give it a shot. And then obviously it totally hooked me to the extent where, I was running a game of Survivor during college. I was applying for the show. I was watching every season a bunch of times. So I am definitely a huge fan. And in terms of how I got into DWSC, I for a while, because I had done my own show, I was like really kind of like, this is probably a problem with me, but I was like very against doing any other like fan-made homemade game. Just was like a pride thing. But this was the one game that just from looking at, I really felt like had really cool challenge designs. Sorry, I've been sick. Really had cool challenge designs and really like gave the feel of the game and was run with a really intense care and devotion. So I was like, I'm going to do it, whatever. I'm going to, suck up my pride. And obviously I'm really glad I did. My video, I think I talked about how, I think I tried to connect probably with John. I was like, I run Survivor games and I like doing charitable causes. So like, I'm perfect for this. Like, these are my two passions. So put me on the show. And I included some clips from my actual Survivor app, but that was really my selling point for how I did my video.
I think the Jeff Probst cardboard also made an appearance.
Yeah. Yes, the Jeff Probst card. That's why I brought him. This guy has been with me since the very beginning of my video. And then the third question, what I do to prepare, I actually really didn't do much of anything. I think I practiced slide puzzles, which, as David knows, didn't really end up coming in handy for my tribe. And I did some research on fire a little bit, but I kind of wanted to have the mindset of, I don't want to overthink this. And I know, I've been involved in Survivor already, so let me not do too much.
I still have a flint with no scars on it that I brought to practice. And I thank the Lord I never had to make fire in any form or another.
Hey, did anybody try to sneak matches on this year? Was there anybody tried to sneak anything in?
No, nobody really had to sneak anything.
There wasn't pregame sneaking. I think there was plenty of sneaking, but there wasn't pregame sneaking.
Wait, there wasn't what? Premium sneaking?
The pregame. There wasn't pregame sneaking, but there was plenty of during game sneaking. Yeah.
Well, 2 years ago when I went, some guy taped matches into his inner thigh, like where we're not going to search him, And I don't know if David, you were part of the production. Did y'all get more strict on that, and how did you enforce that?
It's a strip search. Everyone gets naked.
Full TSA procedure, right?
Yeah, I did not volunteer for that group. I had other assignments, so I'm out in the woods already while they're getting searched.
But seriously, did they increase the search?
Well, I'll tell you the key.
I know that for me, like when go ahead. All I know
Bethany.
is when I showed up, they were like, "Do you have They were like, "What are you wearing? Do you have a jacket?" I'm like, "Here's my jacket." And then she was like, "Okay, we need to hurry." And then she just blindfolded me and then shoved me on my way. So there was no extra searching or anything. But I wasn't gonna sneak. Theoretically, I guess I could have.
I think we all pretty much got a bag dump. That was like the one thing.
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. She like
for
went through
future
everything that I was
players,
bringing, but it wasn't detailed.
future players, now you know where to hide stuff. There you go.
Well, I will tell you this. Well, they try to keep it as much a game of integrity as possible, but you also have handlers that are on your tribes constantly. And if they see something, they get free hamburgers for everything. They don't get hamburgers, but they are under orders to report and turn in things. And whether they do or not is on them, but you are constantly being watched. So to suddenly pull something out of your pocket, it's going to get seen.
No, and the consequence is if we find something on you or either before or during the game, you're pulled, like you're done. So I don't think anyone really should want to risk doing that.
Okay.
They even threatened one time if it's found pregame and they still and they have to let you back in because somebody's not ready or an alternate, they're going to bring that item to the group and let everybody know what you tried to sneak into the game as they let you back into the game, because that's come up before. But yeah, he's right for the most part.
Yeah. Or basically put a vote me out first sign on their back.
Yeah, because there are alternates on site and ready to go.
Yeah,
unless
David
that's why David was there. Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
I was in the woods, have a jacket.
I'm hoping I can go next year. Really am hoping. All right, go ahead.
At least this year, it really wasn't that cold. I mean, I didn't have fire for the first 2 nights, and it wasn't that bad. So it wasn't worth trying to sneak anything in.
That's my policy too. Like, you can survive 4 days. You can do it.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, you guys slept more than we did. Because everybody we talked to was like, we're going to go back and sleep. Y'all can tell me stories about how you didn't sleep. But let's start from the beginning. Since you guys went from beginning to end, or at least Bethany did. No, I'm just kidding. Austin's in the jury. He's at the end. He's further than I ever did. So since you guys went beginning to end, let's start with the beginning and tell us. You already talked about being blindfolded and shoved into cars, and then you get pulled out of cars, walked over to a spot, and then what happens, Bethany?
We get told to take off our blindfolds. And we all kind of like look around. There's 8 people, I guess, separated into 3 groups. So we only knew our 8 people. We kind of introduced ourselves really quickly. And then we went off into the woods and they told us, I don't remember exactly what we were told, just that like we were going to have some challenges and you want to do well in them for some mysterious reason that we were not really told. That was about that. I mean, the first one was a slide puzzle. We couldn't do it. We were terrible.
So in your group, there should have been 2 people that you recognized, even if you didn't recognize the other 5. Who were the 2 people you recognized in your group?
Yeah. So my group our survivors were Adam from Millennials Gen X and Susie from Gabon. And I recognized both of them. So at least that was good. That was like points in my direction.
You didn't go up to Adam and go, so Adam, that's like the first name ever in the world.
Who are you?
Yeah,
so
wow.
Nice to meet you.
Is there an Adam on Survivor Cook Islands?
I recognized.
Austin would have though.
Austin, when you took off your blindfolds, how many survivors did you recognize?
One. There was a Sunday. Well, I had. So this probably wasn't it was a little bit crazy with the check-in, but I had sort of got checked in at the same time as Sunday, right before she got her blindfold. So, and I was like, that.
Yeah, I saw Adam
like
check in too.
Yeah, I was like, it looks like Sunday, but she looks so young. I actually thought that. I was like, is it definitely Sunday? And then she was like saying to the check-in lady, she was like, yeah, my name's Sunday. So I was like, oh, I guess that's Sunday. That was my logical jump there. But so we actually did a little fist pound there. So Sunday I recognized, and I didn't know she was on my tribe, so that was exciting. And I did not recognize any other survivors, but I was recognized actually. So maybe I was the more recognizable face than John Raymond.
So did you get better directions than Bethany that you would remember those directions?
Well, it was interesting because I don't think anybody was really listening to you. David was our guide during the session, and he said, "All right, here's a map with various things," and all of us just stood there for like a solid minute because nobody wanted to be the one to take the map, be the leader.
No one did on our team either. We all just like handed off the map to like 4 different people.
Yeah, that's how you know everybody's seen Survivor.
David, did you have some kind of like smirk on your face, like I dare you to be the one to take the map?
No, I made a point because in fact I was told later you're supposed to take them in the woods and give them the map, but I'm like, we're 10 feet from the woods. All we got to do is jump a ditch. So, but I told him, I said, I've got nothing for you. Everything you need is in this map, and here it is. And I made a point to hold it right in the middle of the group. I didn't point at anybody. I didn't lean towards anybody. I just held it in the middle, and they all just kind of stood there like we're not ready to start.
Was there a ramification for being the one who took the map?
No, I told him. I said, I'm not carrying it, so either I'm going to drop it or somebody's going to take it.
And so it didn't matter who took it. There was no like, hey, you took it, you get a free immunity idol or something like that.
No,
not.
Okay.
Oh, we're not that nice. No. So I think it was Mike K that ended up taking it.
I think so too. Yeah, but it was so quick that we got lost that it didn't really matter. Because,
and then Mike K looks at it and goes, "Oh man, there's so many mistakes on this. Y'all realize this is not to scale."
Oh yeah, they found that out later.
Yeah.
So they went. We went into the woods, and I told them, and basically they had to follow ribbons, different colored ribbons. And Austin's group had yellow, and it went for a while. And it was to Dwayne, if you remember, if you go into the main yurt area, go way right, and just keep going until you find a hole in the woods, and that's where you start. Then you follow the yellow ribbons.
Nice.
And it was our job was just to be there, just to make sure they didn't get too far off track, because the instructions said it's not a race. Stop at the 3 X's, and go from there. And before we even got to the first X, Austin's group got lost.
Well, we didn't really get lost. First of all, nobody could see the ribbons except for Abby. So that's sort of the eagle eyes Abby. Everyone's calling her that because she was the only one who could see the yellow ribbons. But then we were probably walking for 40 minutes, and I felt like we were right about to get to the X. And then I don't know who started it, but people were like, "Oh, we must have missed the checkpoint. Let's head back." And we were gonna walk all the way back to the start and redo it. And I'm sitting there, and I don't want to be the one to say no to everybody. And I was like, I don't really think we would have. I think it would have been pretty obvious if we had passed it. And everyone's like, no, but we can go back. It's okay. It's not a race. I'm like, we're not walking back through and we were ripping off the ribbons from the trees, thinking they were something important. So we would have been lost for literally forever.
They did not learn anything from Hansel and Gretel, apparently.
No, they picked up the breadcrumbs as they came. So this is where Ryan and I get to interject stuff as guides and production, in that when you guys started going back, I'd only walked this path once. It was 24 hours earlier, and it was very quick trying to keep up with Andy Baker. But because I was still asleep from being stuck over in LaGuardia all night. But anyway, I wasn't completely positive of the trail either. And I know I was supposed to be, because Will hadn't done it at all. And Will's like, where's the next ribbon? I'm like, I really don't know.
Well, and it was funny too, because Bethany's group was so slow. I mean, they kind of sucked at the challenges, and they were taking forever. They're walking a little bit far behind. So then somehow though they were the first group to get to Stunt Corral. The thing is over. I made to wait a half hour before.
We had to wait forever. We thought we were so slow and terrible, and then we're standing there for half hour. We figured that we had a staggered start.
Yeah, we thought we were good last too.
Austin must have got really lost, because it was a long time.
I was confident, and we were 30 seconds away from the first X too. And we also stopped and had a little tribe meet up. It was pretty cute. But
well, I wouldn't say they got lost. They just couldn't find the next ribbon. It was a good distance between this, and they might have gotten off slightly. But I was to the point where I saw the next ribbon, so I wasn't going backwards. I knew they were eventually going to have to come back to me, so that's why I was staying downhill while you guys were rolling over that brick wall. I wasn't going back over the brick wall because I'd already been there. I was standing by the next ribbon.
I noticed you too, and I was like, "Come on!" If we really missed it for 30 minutes ago, we'd know.
David was like the Survivor cameraman. Hello.
That came into effect a couple times. It's funny that you mentioned that, but that's not the first time that came up this weekend.
So basically what y'all are saying is the reason Austin's group did not make it is because Austin didn't recognize where things were, right? Austin has a problem with recognition.
All right. So since we're embarrassing him, I'm going to give Austin the first X on the map and ask you to tell us what happened at the first X.
Yes. Well, so we get to the first X, and the first thing we see before there's supposed to be a note that tells you what to do. The first thing we see is a tarp and a box on it. And John, who I later found out was John Raymond from Survivor Thailand, he decided to take the square thing, flip it over. And so unfortunately, and I realized this at the time, or I thought it was, there were 15 pieces in a 4x4 grid, which usually means a slide puzzle. And if you flip a slide puzzle out of its place, you can't really redo it. And then we found a note that said, "Oh, when you touch the puzzle, your time starts." So, but we ended up. You can go into the insight behind this, the ruined puzzle.
Well, it didn't take you all the 10 minutes to finish the second grade 4-piece puzzle.
We're done. That was super easy.
Yeah. So, because I told Will when it was over, I'm like, what was I supposed to do? I said, don't tell Andy, don't tell John, don't tell Mike. We're not telling anybody
They're
about
not
this
listening. It's okay.
until we get to the end. But I'm like, okay, you finished that second grade puzzle. Here's your, in like 30 seconds. Here's your token.
And everybody was so excited to be like, oh my God, we're so good. We crushed it. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, we totally did.
You guys literally crushed it. That was great.
How'd y'all do on the puzzle, Bethany?
Yeah, so we had kind of a similar issue, but like we knew it was a slide puzzle except for one girl. And so we pulled open the tarp and it was Candace. She picked up the piece and she was like, oh, this goes over here. And she sets it back down and we're like, oh no, it's a slide puzzle. So she puts it back down in like the same spot. And then we're trying to move everything around. And then after 10 minutes when we get cut off, we're like, I'm pretty sure we set that piece down like the wrong direction and it was a corner piece. So it threw off like the entire puzzle and we couldn't figure it out. But it wasn't her fault.
So y'all did not get that token.
That's why you got to go full measure. Fully dump it. Don't just dump one piece.
And you got to go full Raymond on it and just toss it over.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the strategy.
And it was funny because John didn't see the note. He just saw the tarp and figured, okay, this is something for us to do, and flipped it. All of a sudden, somebody's going, there's got to be a note, and it was on the other side of the tree. They just happened to walk up to the tarp side of the tree, and then they start screaming because they saw the 10 minutes as soon as you touched the puzzle. So
wait, so did they get to keep that?
My team was like,
They finished the puzzle. I mean, what was I going to do? Was I going to rebuild it in front of them? They finished the puzzle. And it did not say slide on the note. It said,
oh my goodness, there you go.
Oh, trust me, I got
all the notes, and then we found all the notes before doing it, and everyone like insisted on memorizing the whole notes. So like we would read half the note and then like kind of read ahead to know that like once you finished, you had 10 minutes to do whatever the task was. So we would like purposely never finish the note. We would just read like half of it and then we would all study it and memorize, and then we would read half of it again because we're like, if we never finish it, we don't have to start.
Hey, that's good. That's good. That's smart.
That's the best thing about it is like everyone is like overthinking everything, where it just creates like natural, excitement and drama just because like everyone's playing way too hard.
So Bethany, were there people on the tribe that were like, why are we memorizing all of this? And did that automatically like put one person out because they were insisting on it, or how did that dynamic work?
No, like everyone at least like pretended to try. I was like, I think I was probably one of the least memorizational people, but I was like, yeah, I got that word. That one's mine. I can do it. And then I would like turn to the person next to me and I was like, you want to help me with that one? And then I didn't remember any of it, but I pretended.
Let's do it by age. The oldest gets the first word.
Yeah. Austin's group didn't have to worry about the note because as they put the pieces back in the box, it formed a puzzle. So it was all done.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of that.
Genius. John was thinking ahead of all of us from day one.
That's right, he was.
John's the real game changer.
Hey, he's been waiting 16 years to do another puzzle, so he's ready to go. So we Ryan, Austin's group got the token, Bethany's did not, and then after that spot, and I can only talk from Austin's perspective because I was with him. I thought they did a brilliant thing because I did not give them time to meet and greet at the beginning. I think I was supposed to, but I didn't, because as soon as they took their blindfolds off, they just looked ready. So I was ready to give them the map. So once we got past I think it was past the first marker, they got to a nice open pathway where you could tell a truck or something had been down, and they stopped and they asked, can we stop and just do a quick meet and greet? And I'm like, the map said it's not a race. So tell us about that, Austin.
It was really interesting because, and I feel like that might have been led by John, but everybody was kind of comfortable that we'd found the right track and we'd figured it out. And so we were all going around talking about what our experience with Survivor was and why we were here, and got some really cool, interesting backstories of people already. I mean, that's where like meeting Mike K, I was like, oh, this guy's so passionate and really awesome. And I remember all of our tribe kind of had a shared understanding. But the interesting thing was that right before that, I don't know if you were able to witness this, was and actually I might be totally crazy here, but I think this is what happened, is because of that whole divide with like people going in front, people going behind, like John was kind of a leader one way and Abby and Sunday were already kind of grouping up. So John was like steamrolling out in front before we found this path. And Sunday, Abby, and Dan were like sitting off to like the back in a corner, and I'm like standing in the middle, like in between the sides. And I see like Sunday whisper to the two of them, and I was like, oh wow, like that's the first alliance. It just happened. And so I noted that. And then the next thing we did was kind of talk as a tribe. So we had this like idea that we were all unified, and then the game was already starting. It was just kind of an interesting dichotomy there, but it was a really nice moment.
I saw it because you guys were just about on the track where you got to your meet and greet. So I'm glad you remembered it. And I saw Sunny and Abby grab arms, and then I didn't look. I tried to look the other way, and I looked and I saw Liza, who's in our chat room, and Liza went down a path looking for the next ribbon. And I'm thinking, don't walk off by yourself. And like you said, John's knocking down trees about a half mile down the path, and people are spread out. And I look over here, and there's Abby, Sunday, and Dan, and then suddenly Austin goes over there. I'm like, well, that's how you make an alliance, and that's how it works. Bethany, was there anything like that with your group that you saw?
God, ours was like so much slower, I feel like, because we did sort of our meet and greet right as we got out of the cars. And it was just really basic, like names, where we're from, what we do. And then everyone was just kind of like talking. I didn't notice anything, any like break-offs or anything like that obvious until I think, well, so I don't know if we're going to get to like the next station.
We can. Now, did either of you guys have these plans? Were you just playing it by ear, or what were your thoughts in these groups? I know you two are smart enough to think something's got to work for me in this first obstacle, in this first situation. What were y'all's plans for this? Bethany, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to kind of like get to know people, lay low a little bit, not trying to come across like too aggressive out the start. I feel like that's not necessarily a great look for me personally. I didn't think it would go well. But really just like getting to know people, seeing who I vibed with, and then I was kind of planning on going from there. So as of like that first walk, anything set in stone, like it sounds like Austin kind of did.
Well, that kind of happened later. My strategy at the beginning was just to just talk with at least every single person on the tribe. So that's what I was trying to do. And that's when my whole John Raymond idiocy happened. But I did then start to notice that like John was kind of his own personality, and Sunday and Abby were a thing. And so I didn't actually say anything to Sunday and Abby and Dan until we got to the canoes, but that's the next station. So I didn't have a plan in terms of like, these are the people I instantly want to work with, but it was like, get to know everybody, get to talk to everybody, which I think is what you want to do so that you can jump into anything that comes up.
Ryan, you were with Bethany's group. What did you see from your side?
Yeah, I'd say like from my personal experience, I mean, like you don't want to be the person, you want to be making like, final 2, final 3, like deals like that. But I mean, just be the person who, is talking to everybody, kind of like quietly moving between, one person to another, just kind of like be present, be vocal. But like kind of Bethany was saying, you don't want to be the one who's too aggressive or too vocal. It's kind of like, somewhere that happy medium area.
You can tell who's going to be like the forefront of the tribe. Like I really wanted to make sure I was talking to Sunday and Abby. I just like felt like everybody liked them and looked to them, and so like you can see who starts to stand out in good ways and bad ways. Although I don't think anybody stood out in like a really bad way. So
it's really neat because you never know. Each season has been different in many ways. And 2 years ago when I did it, our first trek was as a group of 18. So I got the chance to walk through the whole line, and other people were doing the same thing. And like Austin said, you can tell who's going to be a little alpha, who's going to be vocal, who's going to talk a lot, who feels free to talk a lot. But I want to ask you guys now, since it's early and you've already talked about them, what were your thoughts? And I'll start with you, Austin, on the survivors. Did you want to play with them? Did you want to get rid of them? Did you want to bond and then take them out later? What were your plans with you knew they were going to be there. So what were your plans?
I felt like I got a lot of judgment from this, especially Dr. Jill didn't seem to buy it. But I always wanted to treat the survivors as they were the same as every other person. Like I know that they played before, and that's something to factor in how they would play. But I don't think, maybe some of them do, but I didn't want to treat them as like celebrities that I should worship or that I should avoid. I didn't want to do either. I wanted to see the individuals, and I felt like it was really actually good for that they were with us right from the start this year. Like I didn't like when watching the past where they had them separated, because then it really does create that divide. But having them integrated into the tribes just meant that they were part of it, and I think that's what I was trying to go for. So for me, it wasn't a thing that I really was concerned about.
What about you, Bethany?
Yeah, I totally agree. I kind of went into it kind of with the perspective of I will work with survivors if they are the right ones to work with for me. But I wasn't like married to any idea. But going in and just kind of like getting to know who you were with was kind of where I started with it. You know, I wasn't necessarily like threatened by them off the bat, but I knew that their experience could be useful and helpful as an ally, but obviously not someone that you wanted to be sitting next to at the end. So there had to be some sort of like mid-end game situation that worked for you. But I wasn't opposed to working with them, obviously.
Yeah. Just jumping off what Bethany said, like I think that what was defining about them for me is that like they were cast on the show for a reason. So they're these big personalities. Like you instantly see Adam. Sunday you instantly see talking to everybody. Carolyn's a huge personality. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're there for a reason, and it's not that they're survivors. It's that they're just big presences, and I think that's like you're not threatened by them, but you're definitely aware of them.
Yeah, I think Ryan can attest to this too. That the survivors that are recruited are outgoing, friendly people. And they're just some of the best people you're going to meet out there. And I love them to death. And I think they've hit home runs with almost everybody they've gotten. People like John Raymond just perform so much bigger and better than I think even he thought he would be. And I really, they've done well.
Well, and I think Austin hit on the head too with, they're just kind of in some ways like larger than life personalities. I mean, I clicked with like Spencer and Twyla immediately. And I think I was kind of worried that people would kind of see me as just like the guy who was like lashing on. Oh, but really, it just like I just felt, they were just my favorite personalities to kind of click with. So you just kind of gravitated toward them naturally, whether they were survivors or non-survivors. I mean, they were just people that I liked and wanted to play with. And that's kind of, I think, what you guys are saying. It doesn't really matter who they are, just that you just know that you want to work with them.
And it's funny, like Austin said, he talked to Dr. Jill. She's got a different opinion about what to do with survivors. Cut them at the ankle as soon as possible, because if they get back together, like we saw on Saturday, bad things can happen for fans. It's the perspective of it all. But we are not going to cover every challenge from Friday and Saturday, so don't worry about that. But we are going to cover those days. But I want to get to the next challenge real quick. The second task on Thursday, the canoes and the boats. So Bethany, what happened with your group on that task?
Yeah, so we get to our note, which we're again trying to memorize and get all the details of. And we kind of find out that 4 people are going to have to get in a canoe and paddle off across the pond or whatever. And 4 people are going to stay back. And for whatever reason, for me, I was like, I don't want to stay back. Like, I want to be on the canoe, because I feel like at least like getting away would be like a good opportunity to talk to people. And who knows what's going to happen. So like I kind of was trying to gauge what the groups are going to be. So Steve, I know in our tribe, Steve, Nick C, and Adam had kind of volunteered to be on the canoe, and I was like, oh, a girl should totally go. So just in case like we all get split up or something. So I volunteered. Did you kind of want to?
Is it was specifically because you wanted to kind of talk more with those 3, or just you just didn't want to be left with the other 4?
I mean, I think that like part of it was like once the guys like, Nick and Adam, I felt like we're both like pretty chatty guys, like friendly. Steve obviously is like this like larger than life personality as well. They seemed like people that would kind of start to be talking about the game more than like a Susie or, Candace is like a little bit more like less intense on like the strategy of it. So, and you can kind of tell those things right off the bat. So I knew that if those 3 were going off and I wasn't a part of that conversation, then that wasn't probably a situation that I wanted to be in. Plus like canoeing sounded kind of fun and I didn't know what was happening back at camp. So I was like, okay, I'll go. And I jumped in the canoe and we rowed across and untied some ropes. And Austin, did you stay back? Because I don't know exactly what happened.
No, so I don't remember exactly what I might have been the first person to say I would canoe, or maybe it was like Abby would say I was going to canoe, but like Abby, Sunday, Dan, and I kind of looked at each other and were like sidling over to the canoe, and like so that was a thing. And I also didn't want to be back at camp with like the who knows survivor, because I was like, I don't know if it was like an idol or something. I just like didn't want to have that target. But I wanted to be with those people for sure. And so I got in there with them. And then like, as we were really far away, I was like, and I knew they had said something, or I thought they had said something. So I said, hey, like, this is a good 4, because I didn't want them to feel like they had to like hide whatever they had from me. So did you guys talk strategy on your boat, or was it just kind of like feeling each other out?
We didn't. Yeah, we were really just like feeling each other out. I mean, there were some like jokes, like this is the final, like, but it wasn't like a serious thing, or at least I didn't take it as a serious thing. It was just kind of like a haha, we're all in this canoe and we're far away from everybody else, so we should probably talk about it. But
yeah, we were like whispering a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, no, ours wasn't really like that at all. I mean, it was just like a jokey, like everyone's kind of having fun and hanging out, playing on canoes.
Well, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of, with that 4, you, Dan, Sunday, Abby, I mean, had you guys stayed that tribe, that kind of would have been your core 4.
Well, yeah, time. Jumping ahead to the little split into 4 tribes, like we all 4 were walking together. And then it was later on, and we had to split again, that Sunday, Abby and I just kind of went over, and everyone was kind of like, damn, we need you to stick over there. I don't remember how. I didn't say anything, but us 4 were trying to stick together to be a core. And I don't know if the other 4 in the tribe noticed that or not, but that was like, we were like rushing over to the nothing tribe just to make sure we had the people that we trusted. So, and I felt good because we had a 4 and the other group on our tribe had a 4. I'm getting ahead. So yeah, that would have been a thing.
So while you guys went off with your parties of 4 for your picnics and ropes and everything, Ryan and I were stuck with the left behinders that you guys didn't.
Oh no, actually, I was in mosquito hell with Bethany and the other guys.
Oh, okay, you were out. You're still out in the canoe. That's right. You were.
No, so we were like
that was our first Ryan sighting, our first celebrity sighting.
There you go. They had to like, they said it like paddled to where I was sitting, and I was there with Laura. For like, God, it's like an hour, and we got like eaten alive by mosquitoes. My legs were like, they looked like I had like some sort of weird disease. It was bad. But luckily, no, they were only there for like 2 or 3 minutes, and they got to paddle back. And as soon as they left, we like kind of right behind them because we want to get out of there too. But no, so I got to watch the boat group, and yeah, I don't think like she was saying, I kind of was almost expecting to kind of hear some little like, you know, chatter of like, or other names popping up, but it was pretty much just they were focused. They wanted to get back to the group, and you know, that was kind of that.
So if y'all don't know, I'm sure you've heard, but back on the beach that y'all left, they had to do some survivor trivia to figure out 3 locations of keys, bags of keys. And it was a subtraction and add stuff. You come up with the right names. One of the clues, unfortunately, was misworded. So we did have to aid them in that to give them that answer. And that was when Austin was pulling back up, and they wanted to verify their numbers because they weren't finding the key at all. And they even asked, they turned around and said, can y'all help us count these out and do this? And I remember Austin saying in the meet and greet that he started watching Heroes and Villains, and he was kind of a fan. But as soon as they asked the numbers, boom, 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 the answers are coming, the seasons are coming, the names are coming. I'm like, oh yeah, he's watched, he's remembered, he knows a little bit more than what he might be letting on. But that was kind of neat that you guys came back. But when you came back, they told you not to come up because they were under the impression that another timer would start as soon as you guys hit the woods or hit the beach.
Yeah, that was our impression as well, because we were canoeing back over. It didn't take very long, and we get like the 4 of them are screaming at us like, don't come back, because like the second that we apparently climbed back on the beach or whatever was when they thought that the 10 minutes would start, or 20 minutes or whatever our timeline was. So we like fake paddled into like, I don't know, oblivion, and we're like, oh no, we're stuck, we can't make it, like what do we do? And we just hung out there for a few minutes, give them a little extra time. It obviously
Austin was obvious.
Yeah, we just said we're not going to come back. Yeah. Well, that's when we did our whispering, and we were whispering for so long, and then they started like looking at us, and we were like, so tacos will be good.
Yeah. So, but once you get back to the shore, they got to find their keys. Austin's group ended up finding. How many sets did y'all find? Do you remember?
I think we ended up finding all 3.
All 3. Okay. Then they and they used the ropes. The key was to set up the ropes. Tell us that, Austin.
We had to. So we got the keys. The first one we opened a box, and then it had a clue that said, use the ropes. And I can't remember the exact clue, but basically use the ropes in a certain order. And there were like short ropes and long ropes that we got from canoeing, and use those to connect trees, and it'll match the exact distance and then at the last tree it reaches, dig for another key or something. And we right away had a good thing. The thing is, we didn't know where to match it up on the tree, and we had like these really good combinations of 4. Like I think we were working pretty well, but we just couldn't get to the right one. So we were digging at this one tree that it seemed like, and then after a while we gave up. And then we were trying other combinations, and I just started digging in every single tree hole possible. Even the one that it actually was, but I stopped too soon apparently. But like that was our strategy by the end of it, was because like there were so many rope combinations that seemed like they worked to connect the trees, and we were like, let's just try it.
It's funny. Different people had different ideas, which is what's going to happen with 8 people. And everybody was holding the ropes to the base of the tree, which stuck out almost a foot from the trunk of the tree, and then different things. And they were trying to ask me, Trisha was smart. She was trying to ask me questions about the clue in the note. And I said, just read the note. What does the note say? And finally they got to the point of trunk and not base. And once they did the trunks, they had the 3 trees right away. You guys got all the way around the circle. And the 4th tree, which y'all didn't know until the end, was that it was the first tree. The rope just made a circle right back to the first. And like you said, you and Abby were right there digging. And I'm texting Andy saying, Austin and Abby are going to find it without the ropes. This is cool. We're going to get through this. And then y'all walked away. I said, never mind.
And I even said to Abby, I was like, Abby, wouldn't it be funny if the first one was the last one? And she was like, yeah. And then we just gave up. So
yeah. And then you got to the end, and I think it was Mike K said the same thing. And was it you or Dan? He told one of you guys just to take the rope back to the first. And sure enough, it went perfect.
Yeah, it was
I think it must have been Dan. Yeah. So Bethany, how far did y'all get with the ropes?
Yeah, we didn't even get to the ropes. I think by the time we got to Stump Corral, we were still like, why are we carrying ropes? We had no idea what they were for. We only found 2 of the keys, so we couldn't get the box open, so we never got the note. So yeah, I didn't know what the ropes are for. We carried them all the way in, and then just left them there.
That was another neat thing that John Raymond was trying to do, was collect every item that was at every stop, including the tarp at the first stop with the slide puzzle, and then everything he could.
Oh, we tried to take the tarp too.
Yeah, and I said no. Unfortunately, you got to leave that stuff. So you get through the 3rd task, which isn't very far, thank goodness, because y'all probably worn out by this point. And what's the 3rd task, Bethany?
Yeah, so there were a bunch of logs with letters on either side of the log, and we were supposed to stack them up into a like 4x3 word puzzle of some sort. And it was another one where we just like didn't finish the note until we had to, so that we had some time to kind of like look at the logs and see what the situation was. But so the logs had different letters on either side, but they were supposed to be able to be read from either side, if I'm remembering correctly. So it'd be like the same thing on both sides. So then we eventually were able to like match up logs that had the same letters, because they were going to be like opposites of each other. But we got very stumped because it was.
No, it's funny because I think it was Candace who actually like solved the thing like immediately. She like said the 3 words, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, and then like you just kind of kept moving and didn't really acknowledge it. And like for 10 minutes, we're like, they said it like 6 minutes ago, and then you guys finally got.
Well, because it was odd the way that the description was worded, that like there wouldn't be any spaces. So we thought that there were like 3 4-letter words, but there were 2 blank logs. So the blank logs were technically spaces, but like they filled in the space so that it wasn't empty. And I guess that's where we got like super confused. And then eventually I was like, guys, the blanks for spaces. And then we were good. Token. Woo.
That was Austin's 3rd token, and they had it pretty quick as well. They had the 3 4 rows. They had that.
I think I got both the words, and not to be like a like cocky jerk, but like I actually think I said like fire. Thank you, Ryan. You're wearing a crown, all right. I think I had the fire and life part, and then said the blanks, and we got it in like probably 3 minutes. It was really quick.
Y'all had fire and life almost immediately, and I think it was Abby that was trying to say fire means life, or somebody was saying means, and I'm like, that's 5 letters. Come on.
Yeah, and I was like, why would they give us blank stumps for nothing, or trunks for nothing? Like, so yeah.
And like I said,
we did have 2 decoys as well.
Yes, there were some letters that did not fit in the puzzle. That's right. Yeah. Oh, they're not going to make it easy like a flipped over slide puzzle. No, it's not going to be that easy. So, so this is why we're not going to go over every challenge, because we're already an hour into the podcast and we're not even on Alpha Thursday night. So we get back to Stump Corral. You're walking up. You get to see the other tribes. And what are your first thoughts when you see the other tribes? Austin, I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, the first tribe we thought we were going to be last for sure. We weren't. So we saw Bethany's tribe. I recognized Adam, so I was excited because like I had like a little bit of connection with Adam. And the rest of the tribe, like it was just hard to get a read. Like they were whispering. We like had some back and forth banter. But I didn't get anything strong from there. I don't know if you, Bethany, got anything.
No, so we were the first tribe in the area, and we were waiting for a really, really, really long time by the time you guys came in. And once you guys got there, we just like all circled up, and what our whispering was mostly was about the survivors. So obviously we recognized Sunday was with you guys. So obviously like there's the Adam connection there, like we all know who she is. And then we had this like huddle up where we tried to figure out who John Raymond was.
we had like a moment with Susie.
It was like a huddled conversation. We all got around.
Did no one know? Not even Adam?
Well, that's when we decided that like we were revoking the duper of his super duper status, because we got there eventually, but it definitely took a couple minutes. And I mean, I never would have come up with it. I don't know who came up with it eventually, but I think that, I don't know, obviously somebody did, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, the time thing was funny because Andy was with the other tribe that we don't have here tonight, and I was with Austin's tribe, and we were texting each other updates as to where we were, and we were pretty close because we were only like about 4-5 minutes behind. But Mike's phone was either dead or with somebody else, so he wasn't getting our text. We had no idea you guys were there for like an hour before we even got there.
He had zero signal. Like it just, he wasn't getting anything from that area.
So I walked up and I saw him, and he's just kind of standing there. Look, I said, "How long you been here?" "A long time." Sorry, we just took a while. My group was slow. They talked. They had tea and pretzels for a while. You know, they just hung out. But so we didn't
really have pretzels, just to be clear.
No, just a tea. Okay. So the I dropped them down there. But anyway, now what y'all didn't see, since we're at Stump Corral, what y'all didn't see was there were 2 items out in the woods on your paths. One was marked on the map, and it was marked near the canoe and rope checkpoint. And it was an advantage or some sort of clue or something, but it was in that area, and there was a small mark on the map.
Yeah, so my tribe, we actually found one of them. And it was it was like hanging in a tree. I don't remember exactly where, but it was a challenge disadvantage of some sort, and it could be used, I think, at any time. So it could either be used like against another tribe, or if it was after the merge, against an individual. And if I'm remembering correctly, Nixie grabbed it, so it was kind of his. But we did find that one.
Yeah, y'all's Austin, y'all's was after you, Sunday, and Abby and Dan got together. From that point to the next checkpoint, it was up in the trees. And the problem was, when I saw it the day before, it was a canvas bag with a big color painted on it. And when y'all went through, the wind had turned it around. So it was just a canvas bag with no bright, you couldn't see the bright color. And Will's going, "Where is it?" Because I told Will, there's something out here in the trees we got to show on the camera. And we thought we'd missed it. And we just got to the point where I saw it happened to turn, and he got a shot of the clue, and then got a shot of you guys just walking away. So that was pretty interesting. But they're out there, you know. It's just that's Durham Warriors. They like to do that kind of stuff and give you a chance to throw stuff at you.
Well, can I just say real quick that, like, can we ban any talk about the little vote holder right now? Like, can we just not include that in this podcast? Because there's just so much going on socially, and I was looking for this stuff. Like, I hosted a game. Like, I knew these things were in existence, but they could just be anywhere. And like, if you're distracting yourself from that, I'm being kidding about the vote holder thing, but like, there's just so much going on that you miss. There, you know, even when you're thinking about it, you really just have to like kind of get lucky.
You do have like tunnel vision. Honestly too. I mean, like, so I actually found like our merge idol clue, and I didn't even pursue looking for it because it would just draw more suspicion to me than it would actually finding the thing and playing it. So I think it's almost like, is it really worth to go out idol hunting when you can just play your other game. And
well, especially when you don't get to keep the idol. I mean, that can happen also.
Well, and part of it too is like there's really not that much time. It's not like 39 days when you have probably a lot of downtime and people can kind of move away and do their own thing. I mean,
yeah, and it's like you always
don't
have
really
like
have
somebody
time.
with you.
Yeah, and any time that you don't have someone with you, like you should probably be wondering why that is. Like there's probably something that's happening that you're missing out on. So you have to like weigh the pros and cons to that. I know like for me, it probably wasn't going to be something that I was interested in doing. Like I don't need that sort of target when you could be getting to know people and talking to people and talking game. So
and for me, like when I would have found it, like I had just witnessed Sunday Dan and Abby make a little thing, and I wasn't there. Like I wasn't there in the moment, so I was like thinking like I need to get in this somehow, and like that long term, that's probably going to help my game more than this challenge disadvantage, you know. So yeah, I think you're right, Bethany, and right.
Yeah, Troyzan said the same thing at the end of my season. He said it's 39 days technically packed into 4. And like Bethany said, you just don't have time. It moves so fast and so quick. And like I said, even the night goes by fast, especially if you stay up and you try to talk to people. So let's move this on a little fast. We're going to go right to Stump Corral. The last tribe comes in. It's got LJ McCannis and it's got Mama C, Carolyn Rivera. Come up with that group. And you guys are told – yeah, baby. So you guys are told you are 3 groups of 8. You now need to form 4 groups of 6. So what went on? We'll start with Bethany on this. What went on in your group as to what you guys needed to do and what was going to happen?
Yeah, so we kind of like pulled this. We were like, we're sticking together. If they're going to break us up, that they're going to have to just figure out how to do it because like we're going to force the issue. We're all staying together. And the reason why we did that was because Austin's team crushed the strategy immediately and they split up into 4-4. So we obviously are going into 4 groups of 6. So automatically they've got a majority on both of those sides if we're going into the next day. And at that point, once they're split, like everyone else is kind of like, well, if we're going to get split up and we're going to be in the minority on one tribe, then we're going to like force the issue here. So we stuck together as an 8 and just stood there on the nothing or into the no food area and kind of waited to see what the consequence was going to be for that.
Well, I appreciate you not throwing the tantrum and the protest sit-in that Steve Helling did when he decided that he wasn't going to give in to the game ways. So, Austin, whose idea was it to split and try to get at least half the tribe together?
So it was never said. It was in my mind, but it was. I think the reason we split like that was really. I mean, for fans who weren't there and who watched Survivor, like, just know that like Sunday is a gamer. Like she was playing from the first second and she instantly went to the nothing spot, and me and Abby and Dan kind of did the same thing with her. We were kind of filling out like huddling up as a group, making sure we were in the same spot, and we're like, whatever, like if we're with our alliance, then we're not gonna have to worry about the thing. And so like some of our tribe kind of was trying to come with us, and that's when I think at least I muttered a couple people. I was like, let's try to split up because like, you know, then we can have numbers. And maybe other was bring about it too, but then we came back together for a time when nobody else was splitting up, and then we did the second nothing tribe once they were splitting up. So it was murmured, but it wasn't like a clear, coherent strategy. It was really more about that alliance that had formed, I think. But sitting there, it really did make sense. If the tribes are going to stay like in those 4, you want to have the majority on 2 tribes. That's huge.
All right. So did anything happen that night, Thursday night back at camps? You get to your new camps. Anything happen that either helped or hindered y'all's game or just solidified your game? We'll start with you, Bethany.
So Thursday night we get to camp and we have like nothing. So we literally just like put down a blanket and we all sit down and we just start talking and just like chatting for like hours, which probably annoyed the crap out of the people that had to watch us just talk and do nothing. But that was like pretty much that night was like, I think very crucial to like the end of my game, because I had, after a while, you know, like it must have been like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know what time it was, but we all kind of like lay down to sleep and I'm like on the end and Adam is right next to me and everyone else is like starting to fall asleep. And he kind of taps me on the shoulder and he like points at me and then he points at himself and he does this like thumbs up thing. And then we pounded, and that was our alliance, and it was set. And then he points at Katie, who's also from Chicago, and he was like, what do you think about that? And I went a thumbs up, and then I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. Katie, do you want to come with me? I'm going to get lost. And then I locked it in with Katie then. And so at that point, that was like our 3 at going into Saturday. If we needed numbers, if we needed anything, we had like a solid 3 going into that day.
I always love when like the first like bathroom or water break talks start to happen. Like, oh, I need to go get water. You want to come with me? Or I need to go to the bathroom. Want to come with me? It's like, you know what's going on.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was like really late. Oh no, it was like really late.
I never had that problem. So
oh yeah.
I was like, Katie, I feel like I'm gonna get lost, and she's like, I'll come with you. Okay.
All right. So future players of the Durham Warrior Survival Challenge, this is the winner talking about how she was awake in the middle of the night, not sleeping, made her alliance, took a bathroom break, made another alliance. So listen up for those that are coming out planning to bring your pillow. This is not a time to sleep. This is where things happen in the middle of the night.
Well, and that was another thing too, which was, a little bit annoying at one point, but it was like when you're a kid and you're like with your siblings on vacation and they're like, are you still awake? Are you still awake? And they ask you like every 10 minutes, like that was Adam, like every 10 minutes. And me and Katie would be like, yeah, we're still awake over and over and over again. So
what was
it was
your
definitely
tribe?
the 3 of us that were the only ones awake.
What was your tribe, Bethany? The nothings?
No, we were the no food.
The no food.
We were supposed to be food, but we got no food.
So real quick, what happened was the tokens that were brought back to Stump Corral were placed for value on food, shelter, and fire. And when John told them to split up, there was an extra tribe of nothing. And I got asked, I wasn't in on the early part like Ryan was with some of the planning and stuff, but I got asked, what would I do in that situation? And my first thought was, I'm grabbing my favorites and I'm running to the nothing tribe. I don't care about an item on 4 days. I just want my people. So it was neat to see everybody talking about that, but food ended up getting no tokens. So there was actually 2 nothing tribes, which was one of y'all. And Austin, which tribe did you go to and what happened on your first night?
So I was the official nothing tribe with me, Sunday, Abby, Liza from so that's 4 from our initial group. And then Alex, Nick. Thanks, Ryan. So we had 4 from our original one, then Alex and Nick. Nick was from your initial group, right, Bethany?
Yeah, Nick C. Yeah.
Because
we split up actually, and sorry, that's kind of like an interesting thing because we had to send Nick C away, and it was like a very sad moment. And as we were like all scrambling, we kind of like tried to set Nixie up with you guys, like because Adam knew Sunday, he had a conversation with her like as quick as possible, like take care of Nixie, kind of like a Boston Rob Amber thing. Which
that makes sense because they did. Well, they definitely. I could like Sunday and Nixie definitely were bonding. Our tribe was interesting in that we were apparently the most fun in terms of like the first night because we were like really trying to make fire for like 2.5 hours, and we made this really elaborate shelter. We
also had Alex too.
We also had Alex, so that was fun.
Always most fun.
Yeah, that was when I developed my what I'm going to call the creeper strategy, which is just like give really like pointed looks at people. This is like it wasn't like a really thought out strategy, but I would just be like trying to make eye contact with people to like secure, like make them feel like I was good. And I didn't know if it was creepy or not, but I think it worked because like Sunday and I kept exchanging looks. And we're like we're good, and like Alex and I would like kind of like have like chuckling looks during moments, and then like Nixie and I were like kind of thought we were bonding. So I don't know. That was when that started.
So this is one of those moments where the parts you're not hearing, you're going to hear in the next podcast when we do the pre-jury or the undatables, whatever you want to call them. There's a pre-jury podcast coming up.
We prefer undatables.
Yes, that's right. We might just have to change it. We'll talk to Mark. And but so we'll fill in the blanks on the other tribes and what happened then. So is there anything else Thursday night, or are y'all ready to get into Friday?
I think we're good to go.
All right. So Friday morning, y'all are brought into the challenge pitch, I call it because it's just an area. And tell me what happened that morning, Bethany.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, it was very strange because we were in our 4 groups. And then for whatever reason, I want to say like the Nothing tribe got to pick another tribe that they wanted to come over to them. This is actually a really important
moment, yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of got their pick out of the other 3 tribes of 6, and they had picked no food, if I'm remembering correctly. So that would be my tribe, which went to kind of like join Austin's tribe. And we thought like, oh, we're kind of like doing Friday as 2 tribes of 12 that were just kind of self-selected. And then we get handed these big bags of t-shirts with all of our names on them. And then as we're pulling them out, we realize that all the girls are wearing pink, all of the boys are wearing blue. And we're like, but why did we just choose that if we got split boys, girls? Did anybody else find that confusing?
I definitely did.
We knew what was going on.
I mean, it was really just meant to, like, you know, that one last second thinking this is our tribe, and just one little twist at the end and make it.
Well, and I think again, as Austin maybe wants to talk about, like, it did kind of probably make a difference, like in the end, because you kind of see like who's choosing who. You know, you've got like Austin, Abby, Sunday, and they're choosing like our group over the other group. So it at least like gives you kind of it puts a question in your mind, like why did they choose this one group as opposed to the other 2? But you don't really have a lot of time to think about it because then it was just split up immediately.
So Austin, why was that important that y'all made that decision?
So, well, as soon as that happened, we kind of felt like the no food tribe, it was like that shared understanding that we had nothing. And also like Sunday had a connection with Adam. I had a connection with Adam. So I was like, that tribe looks like good. And they looked like they were nice. Like I remember we said after like 2 minutes, it was nice. But Alex, and we just the whole night before been talking about Nick's old tribe and Alex's old tribe. And Alex was like, I didn't have a good vibe with them. I didn't really like, it was something kind of weird. And then I got exiled from them, and like, it seemed genuine. But you know, he could be saying that to bond with the new tribe. And then instantly that morning, he was like, guys, let's pick LJ's tribe, which was his old tribe. And he said that once, and I was like, I thought you didn't like them. And he was like, and so then it kind of kept happening. And he was like, again, let's pick the LJ tribe. Like he said it twice. And then that was like a really big red flag for me, which we'll maybe talk about later if we get to it. But yeah, that was something I definitely noticed. Is like Alex, I feel like is a player if he's doing that.
All right, so we're gonna before we get to the schoolyard pick, Austin's gonna disconnect real quick to see if we can get his audio cleared back up. Bethany, I'm gonna go to you and just tell me the day in a nutshell. You're with the gals all day. What the day was like? Did your day improve? Did you bond with anybody new? You know, what was your day like with other girls?
Yeah, so honestly, going into a group of 12 girls was not my ideal situation. And then, especially right off the bat, I felt like I kind of like came out as more of like a physical player right away, which kind of, I didn't really want that to be my target. So it was a little bit nerve wracking, and it's a lot of girls, but I did kind of lock down. Sunday approached me and said, you know, at one point, I have Abby, who do you have? And I said, I have Katie. And she said, we're a good 4 if that happens. And I was like, yeah, we're a good 4. So we at least like locked that in. But other than that, like strategy talks were so minimal.
Did you kind of think that we were going to switch things up again? So what I got from the guys, that a lot of the guys didn't think that was going to be the tribe they ended up voting with. So they were holding back on a lot of, you know, strategy talk, kind of just like we're playing today and then waiting to get to the end of it where things kind of became mixed up again.
Yeah, so my idea was kind of going into that. I'm like, okay, well, if we go 2 tribes of 12 into Saturday, it kind of is impossible for us to get down to a merge situation by Saturday night unless we have a midday switch. And I figured, you know, if we're really going to do this girls versus guys thing, I don't think that I would be like the first person to get voted out, especially if I kind of like play my cards right and don't come across as like too aggressive or obnoxious or any of those other things. So, you know, we're not getting to the end of the next day with this group. So maybe like it was best to kind of figure out where we thought it was going to go next and just kind of like have a nice day.
So what did y'all do to have a nice day as a group of girls? Did y'all do anything together or just?
They were braiding their hair.
Yeah, no, we all went to the bathroom as a group, as one does. No, Carolyn wanted to play this like picnic game, and we had to do that for like hours at a time, and everyone was just like, yeah, we're going on a picnic, this is a great game. And I was like, okay, I'll just hang out here. So that was fun.
All right, so Austin, before we get to the schoolyard pick, what was it like on the men's track? Because I've heard stories. I got a lot of good stories that night from guys that were over there. But what was it like for you?
Can you hear me decently now?
Perfect. Oh, perfect.
Okay. Yep. All right, great. So the guys' tribe was really interesting because nobody wanted to break off into like individual groups. But there was definitely a lot going on in that people would really quickly have muttering, really quickly have little relationships. I know that I was just, trying to do the same thing of talking to everybody, especially because once it got to that tribe, our whole 4-and-4 thing didn't actually work out very well because those other tribes that stuck together and had a sense of unity. So I felt like I was kind of in no man's land. And I didn't really see like me, Mike, Dan, and John as like a strong 4 that was ever going to unite. So what was interesting was just from talking to people, like that's when I really connected with Dave. We had like a little Maryland alliance, and then it would just be like really small, short whispers. And I was asked by one side of like Steve and Nick C and someone, I was like, hey, do you want to join up? Like, we're going to have a 7. Do you want to be part of it? And then the other side that was like, I don't remember who talked about it. I don't think LJ necessarily brought it up to me, but it was somebody. The other side, like the LJ side, brought up like, let's have a 7. So, and they both mentioned Nick C in both groups. So I talked to Nick C and I was like, Nick, like, we're the swing votes, right? And he was like, yeah, this is crazy. So like just from like really tiny, like 10-second mutterings, these two sides formed, and there was like a little twosome in the middle. So that was pretty cool.
That's what I was.
It was kind of funny at one point.
Go ahead, Ryan.
At one point, I like took a picture of the two tribes because like the guys were like literally in this circle of 12 for almost the entire day, minus a couple of minutes where Austin was doing that thing. And I literally walked over from that circle to the women, and at the time they just happened to be like they were all in like 3 little groups of 4, just kind of like talking amongst themselves. It was like completely contrast to what the guys were doing versus what the girls were doing, which I thought was kind of funny.
Well, that was the one time it happened because, like Bethany said, when they came out of their challenges, they were a circle. They were having communion together or something. They were sitting all in a group. But what happened was when somebody would go to the restroom, it's like a small group would stagger behind them, and they would kind of be out on the edge of the group waiting to get to the restroom like in little pods. So it was neat to see that, Brian. And you caught one of the good times when they were actually separate. But like Bethany said, they spent a lot of time as a group, as in where Mama C could see everybody, and all the groups stayed together. Nobody was going off too far. But every now and then there'd be a stray bathroom dweller that would take somebody with them, So that was neat. But I liked Saturday in the sense that it gave you guys a chance to meet people you haven't met. And I know it may have screwed up some alliances, like Austin was saying, the original 4 had a tough time going from there. But it just gave you a chance to meet people. But it's like Ryan said, like almost everybody knew it wasn't going to stay that way.
Yeah, I think that it was pretty obvious that it wasn't going to stay that way. But I also think that it was good in the sense that it gave us like a broader sense of people that we got to meet, because it is hard when you're kind of 3 separate groups or 4 separate groups. You only know 5 people. And so the way that they played out Friday, I thought made it at least like and for me, like I'm not like that great at names or whatever, at least by the end of Friday, I'd figured out who everybody was, which is like a huge step in the right direction.
Do you feel like any relationships that you maybe made on Friday did have a larger impact in the game later, or did you kind of go back to your original groups and Friday really ultimately didn't have a huge impact on the game?
For me, it didn't have a huge impact, just because like I didn't really end up with any girls that I hadn't started with that much. You know what I mean? Like I had started with Susie and Candace, and then by the end of Friday, we were on the same tribe again. The only girl that was new for me was Liza. So I didn't really have the opportunity to play with the women other than the reward day. So it didn't really help me all that much.
It sounds like the opposite for Austin, because he went from his first group to all these different people that he got to talk to and get to know.
Well, it definitely did. It would have been more so if like the game was really defined by Umpe. Like that and like that just is the way the story of the season is, how that ended up happening. But it almost like if we hadn't had the majority going into the merge, then those guys tribe, especially with like if it was like one different vote, where there were a lot of guys in the game, like that would have been really, really crucial. And there were still some relationships that I think had a smaller influence, but so it didn't pan out as much as but it really could have, I think.
Yeah, this to me also led to the fact that this was a smart cast, and I've talked about it to a lot of production people. I thought this was one of the smarter casts that's been brought in, because I didn't hear a lot of talk of let's talk about an all-girls alliance or let's talk about an all-guys alliance. Everybody kind of knew it was a temporary situation. It wasn't going to be 12 versus 12, and they even split you guys up in 6 and 6. During those challenges, just to get 4 groups going instead of 2, which made it a little more fair to come in second and third instead of just second or last place. So now the girls did not switch at lunchtime. They were given the opportunity to mix up that group of 6. Did the guys switch at all? No? Okay. All right, so getting to the end of that day, there's going to be a reward for who finishes first between the men and the women. But before that, there's a very interesting moment where John V asked everybody to rank players. Some people they'd never met, some people like LJ, whose name they didn't know. And you talk about you not knowing all the names, Bethany. LJ obviously didn't know all the names either. He didn't go to that last reality rally to meet Sunday. And we'll talk about that in the next podcast. But anyway, she wants to be introduced as the girl in the black tank top. So yeah, we did. Is that
her banner?
Yeah, that's gonna be her banner. So we did a ranking. Now, where did you come in, Bethany, and then where did you come in, Austin, in the ranking?
Yeah, so I was 4th,
and
behind Sunday, Carolyn, and Abby. Abby was first.
Abby.
I was 7th. I was 7th, and I think like 1 or 2 of those spots were probably because I was an idiot in the matching challenge. So I thought I fell a couple. But I was really happy. Like I was like very happy to be right in the middle.
So what happened was they took the top male and the top female, which was Adam and Abby, and they became tribe captains, and they took the highest ranked person after that, which was LJ, to be the 3rd tribe captain, and then they did a schoolyard pick. So how high were y'all picked in your groups?
So this is where Bethany and I's games really kind of come together. So I'm sure we'll be going back and forth on this. It was Adam had volunteers, and Liza volunteered, and he picked her. Liza and Adam then picked me. And at that point, Bethany was the next one. And I think Adam probably suggested it, but I actually I put Bethany as my number 2. I was I had like a good vibe for Bethany. So I was like, yeah, this is fine. Like we're totally good with this. And that was where we both ended up.
Yeah, so Austin picked me, and then I was kind of I didn't know any of the guys that were left on the board at that point. So I picked Dave because he seemed like, I don't know, I had nothing. And Austin and Adam were like, you're on your own. Pick whoever you want. Like, okay, thanks.
So she just threw out a name that's really well popular, and hopefully somebody's name is Dave out there. So is there a Dave out here? We'll take the Dave. But what's so interesting about that is little thought as you put into that. To me, that was a turning point in the game for a lot of people, because not only did it strengthen that tribe, it broke up the Acorns from getting their whole tribe back together. So it was really good in that part. Yep. Now, Austin, were you glad to get back with Liza, who you were with the first day, or did y'all have any connections after that first day?
So, I talked to Liza a little bit on the first walk-in, but I felt like Liza, and Liza, if you're listening, hi, but I felt like Liza, initially was a little reserved and was kind of feeling it out. And so I didn't connect with her right away. And then the first night when we ended up on the same thing, we started to connect a little bit, I think. And then, so it wasn't a thing where I was Liza and I had a final 2, but I was excited. I mean, I felt like Adam, Liza, and Bethany, that first 4, I was really, really excited about. So I'm sure we'll get to me and Liza later. Yeah.
For the record, as we went into that night, so just as we see how it all turned out, Adam asked me how I thought that the draft went, and I said I didn't think it was a good look when you asked for volunteers. And I know that for me, there's no way in heck that I ever would have raised my hand. And so to raise your hand seems kind of like a gutsy move to just put yourself out there like that. And that made me nervous, for the record.
Been on the record.
So, for the record, so after the schoolyard pick and before the reward, if you can call it a reward, there's one more challenge, and it's an immunity challenge, and that was the log challenge, right?
Well, we technically had 2 challenges.
Oh yeah.
All right, what were they?
we had the one.
One was the Survivor challenge.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We can
skip that one. We can skip that one.
Let's go over that one now.
You'll see in the video. Alex threw in the ball. It didn't get across the pond. I had to dive in the pond, retrieve the ball. Dave was holding me up by my foot.
He didn't. He didn't dive in and go at the ball. He kind of like reached his hand. He's like, oh, I can almost maybe get it. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to go like arm maybe shoulder length in, then like a little bit further until finally he's just like, I'm gonna have to go.
It was like real life in slow motion.
It was really sad and funny to watch.
And I had just gotten dry from the day because the sun had just come out.
Because he looks like so hopeful, like, oh, I can do this. We're just saying you're gonna go in, dude.
Bethany, I think that's when you really started liking me, so I think it was a good thing. That's what it was.
That was probably that still stands out as one of my favorite moments.
The good part was you didn't smell because everybody smelled at that point, so there wasn't really anything to worry about.
You got a bath.
That's right. So we had a bath. So in the main pond. That's right. So we go to the final challenge then, which is the first immunity challenge. There was no tribal Friday night, but we did something new. We did an immunity challenge Friday night to start the day Saturday morning with the tribal, and it was it Wetu and then Umpe and then Tinda, and let's see, whatever LJ's tribe was.
Wetu. LJ. Just call it LJ's tribe. That's what we all call
LJ's tribe. That's right. LJ's tribe, Steve's tribe, and Dave's tribe. They were the 3 net holders. So whose idea was it to double up on Wetu?
I think we just kind of looked at the other tribe and we're like locking, like the whole tribe was like locking eyes, like, yeah, we know what we need to do, right?
Yeah,
it was obvious right away. It was awesome.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like from our standpoint, we're like, oh my god, they just picked like the stacked tribe. So like, luckily that challenge, well, we thought it was going to play out like it was and had them drop it. And we honestly were thinking that they were going to just completely crush you guys, and they were going to be the ones going to merge with like, 6 or 7.
Well, as usual, right?
I mean, that's what I thought too, especially after that first reward challenge. Like, I thought that Umpe was just gonna like embarrass ourselves.
Yeah,
like, I thought we were gonna like that. Just Austin going headfirst into the pond was gonna be our entire day on Saturday. That's exactly what I thought it was gonna be. So I almost think it was good that we just like fell flat on our faces, because it made Tinda immediately like okay with kind of like teaming up on LJ's tribe, because they look like a physical dominating tribe. So,
and to this day, I still have no idea.
Because
I still have no idea how LJ won that challenge. We tested that challenge. I swear, like at half the logs he ended up holding, we're like, this will break like anybody, maybe like 1 or 2 more. And he went like 6, and it's funny because the logs like are deceivingly heavy. They don't look that heavy, but when you stack them and you pile on like after like 15, 20, it's a massive pile. So just, I don't know how he won that. I mean, he's like a god. That's all I got.
Well, there was a moment. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, dude.
No, go ahead.
Well, there was a moment in between. I think it was in between the. Was it on Friday, Bethany? The interrogation moment.
What interrogation?
The matches, or the
Saturday. That was Saturday.
Okay, never mind.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
No, there was a moment in the challenge, and Steve and LJ both tell the same story, and it's a great story where Steve is getting worried. Steve's a friend of mine, so I can pick on him, but he's getting worried, and in the video, it's been on Facebook too. He starts screaming at the other team to hurry up, and his is going. And my whole thought is, I'm looking at Dave thinking, Dave better not fall asleep, because if he falls asleep and drops that net with no logs, he is never going to hear the end of it. But
would you guys
Steve keeps looking at. That's a good question. Would y'all voted Dave out if he'd have dropped the net?
No,
or was
I don't think so. No. Well, no, Dave was never going. Let's just make that clear.
Yeah,
Dave was never going first.
To be clear, Dave's name was never on the table. He just thought that it was always on the table.
But so Steve looks at LJ to see where he's at. LJ looks at Steve, and LJ smiles and tightens his grip as hard as he can and knows he's got him, because he can see the look on Steve's face. And seconds later, his net drops and it's over. So in our first immunity challenge on a Friday is complete with Tinda going to tribal.
And that was also really important because the legacy advantage which we all knew about. Yeah, we all knew that there was a legacy advantage, not what it was, but there was a clue. We were wondering all day what the far set of logs was, and then we finally were told in the challenge there's a far set of logs. So I was that's where the weird running picture of me comes in. But I was like the first one out of the gates, and I didn't want to find the legacy advantage, but I wanted to see who got it. But I ran really far past the last set of logs. I thought there was another one. But luckily, I think Adam and maybe Bethany too saw John pick it up.
My
and I'm
hand
sure
was like 6 inches. Yeah. Yeah, I was there like right as John got there. And I was like, I saw it, but I just like couldn't process what was happening fast enough. And then he had his hand on it.
I think Wayne was there also.
I knew immediately that he had it. So we knew at least where it was, which I think is part of the battle.
Yeah, I got to talk to John in the airport on Monday, and he remembers Austin running past the log pile. Like, I don't know where he's going, but I don't think there's any more log piles out here. And then it was there, and he just grabbed it right before a few people. He mentioned several people that were there at the same time.
Yeah, recognition.
Austin was looking for the log pile in the pond.
That's right. That's right. I found it earlier.
I'm
still looking in the mud for the key.
All right, so now we're down to one tribe since we got you two from the same tribe, and you go Friday night. You have immunity. You don't have tribal council the first thing Saturday morning. So who's the first one to go if y'all do go to tribal council? Have you already decided that? What's the pecking order?
Well, we had the whole reward thing, so we were split up. And
okay,
Bethany, maybe you want to talk about what there were any talks. I mean, the reward. The only thing that happened from our tribe was that because the other tribes were kind of, at least the tribe that was going to tribal was scrambling. But me, Alex, and Dave all said that, like, just in case there's a girls thing, we have to stick together. And we wanted to try to get Liza as a fourth. And they were, like, worried about, like, the Adam, Bethany, Candace group. But I wasn't really as worried about that. But so we locked in a 3. Bethany, I don't know what happened on
Hold on. Before Bethany tells that, tell us what happened as soon as you got to the pontoon boat.
Oh, so when we got to the boat, there were 12 of us from the guys' tribe. We won this reward going on Bob's boat with hot dogs without buns. And there was a note there, and John read it, and it said that 2 people have to sit out of the reward, go to Exile Island. And Adam immediately volunteered. And right as he was saying it, I also did, because this was like kind of the same feeling as like the Nothing Tribe one. I was just like, I don't know why I volunteered. This is one of the, I think, that I shouldn't have done. But luckily, like, I don't think anybody really heard it, and LJ and Adam then agreed the 2 survivors will go to Exile. I also like wanted to have a chance to sit down and talk with Adam because I wanted to work with him before we got back to the tribe. So that was the thinking, but it was probably stupid to try to do that. But so those 2 survivors went off, and then the rest of the 10 of us were on the boat.
So were you worried at all that 2 survivors were getting away from the rest of the group and going to something called Exile that in the game has offered rewards and advantages in previous seasons?
I think we all knew there would be something. When we got back from the reward, I did pull Adam aside, and we talked before we got back to the guys' tribe, and that's where he told me he found something, and he would tell me later. So, or I don't know if he told me the whole thing. I feel like he mentioned that he found something. Maybe he told me later, but we knew there was something. I don't think anybody was too worried about it because that's what happens at Exile, and we were all excited to be on a reward, so we weren't that freaking out.
All right, so Bethany, while they were eating their hot dogs with like half a pack of ketchup,
we had low budget this year.
So what were the women doing?
We stole ketchup.
And I ate ketchup packets on Saturday morning, and it was delicious. But so we were like 4 people back at camp for a little while, and just kind of like talking. Liza and I like tried to start a fire just like for fun, I guess. I didn't think that it was going to go anywhere, but she seemed confident, so I went along with it. And then I was like, okay, I'm tired, but we were all just kind of like chatting. Susie was kind of getting a little bit maybe less enthused with the game at that point. And then there was a point in time when we got offered to go to the bathroom, which we thought was very strange. But we were all like, okay, sure, let's go. So we went up to where the water was and the bathroom. And we're all kind of like refilling our canteens or whatever. And we're like, it's kind of strange that they like made a suggestion that we come here. So we just start looking around for anything. And then Tinda arrives as well. The girls from Tinda get there. And so they're kind of like looking around for things. And so I kind of connected up with Katie just to kind of verify, like, hey, you know, if we make it till tomorrow night, we're still good. Are you okay? Because you guys are going to tribal tomorrow morning. Do you feel comfortable? And she told me, like, Dan is going, everything is fine, you know, business as usual. And so that's when we kind of like went back to our own camps, spent the rest of the night.
And I will say, like, the guys and girls separation, like, because Susie had mentioned right before we left, like, oh, like, I could be the first one out. Like, I want you guys to play. Like, I want to be with my husband. And at that point, like, I was skeptical about it too, like, because I was like, I don't know, maybe Susie's like here to like stir crap up, and like she's just like messing with all of us, and then I go back there and find an idol. So like we had talked about that on the boat, but it got around once we got back to later. It was very clear that it was genuine, at least to me.
Yeah, and then when we were just the girls, she had kind of like that was a common theme. So by the time you guys came back, I felt very comfortable that was a thing if we had to go to tribal.
Yeah.
All right, so Friday night, the second night, does anybody stay awake all night Friday night?
Well, the big thing.
So before that, go ahead, Austin.
Oh, no, you got it.
No, you got it. Okay.
Well, this is my big memory is, and this is like a really powerful moment for me, was Adam. We got back, and I don't know if this is before or after the bathroom break, so you can remind me on this one. But I just remember that Adam at one point, like early in the night, said, all right, guys, this is Survivor. Like when we were on my season, we split up with individual conversations. And
that was the first thing when we all got back to camp.
Yeah. And I was so relieved because I had been feeling that all day, like this whole muttering thing, like it's fine, but like it's time to play the game. It's time to have real talks, real strategy. And so that gave us all the freedom. And it had to be from him, because if you're the one saying, let's have individual conversations, you instantly look like the biggest schemer. So the fact that he did it, validated it, and let us all kind of split up, go have our little side talks, and that really opened up the Unpaid tribe. And I think probably in the end made us be able to be tight together, because we had kind of fleshed everything out, and we didn't have all this bottled up tension as much.
And we all had individual conversations. I think I had an individual conversation with every person on that tribe at some point, just to kind of like see what their ideas were and where we kind of sat. And, you know, that was another kind of like bathroom break situation. Like always go to the bathroom when people say, because I have great bathroom luck, I guess, because it was right after that Austin approached me, and we had our conversation. So that I felt like was an important part of the game. And if you were the one that initiated it, so if you want to take it over.
I pretty much I went up with it was me, you, Adam, and who was the fourth? Was it
I honestly don't
Eliza?
remember.
Was it
Well, each of you three guys mentioned in your confessional, like it was like kind of the three of you and Liza. So I mean, that's
okay. I think we had Adam talk to Liza, and then I was like, I'm Bethany, can I talk to you? And I was like, Bethany, like I had a really good vibe from you. Like I put you number 2. Like I wanted you on the tribe, and like you just seemed like someone who like was like good and wanted to play the game, and I wanted to find that person. And I felt like we had a really good talk. Like instantly, I felt very much like I could trust you, and that we had the same mindset.
Yeah, I think that after, we talked for maybe a minute or two. And I felt like at that point, you know, we were pretty locked in. And I also told you, like, I trusted Adam, and you said you trusted Adam. So we had the shared thing. We had this, like, common third that I think that kind of solidified us as a group.
And I think I think Liza was there because we were like, Liza's also should be part of this, because that'll give us a 4 to start with.
Yeah.
So does Adam kind of get a free pass on his comment at the start of that night because he's a survivor, because everybody knows he won the daggone game, so he's a smart dude. So, I mean, like you said, nobody else wants to say that because it's going to stand out. But so the survivor comes in with a slight advantage as in, oh, it's just Adam. You know, he's actually, you know, he's showing us how they do it in the game. So is that like a free pass for him that he gets away with that?
I think at that point too, you guys just wanted to work with Adam at that point. So I don't think him saying that would have offended you guys in any way. I mean, you guys were already kind of going that direction with them.
Right. So that was like we had already had these ideas in our mind. And so for him to kind of make that statement, it was like, well, thank goodness, because this is what we were already thinking, but we didn't feel like we could get away with it. And, you know, whether
I would doubt that anybody was like, I don't trust Adam. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of like, he approached it in a way of like, this is what we did. And it worked out. Like, it was fun. So why don't we all try this game? Yeah, exactly. But the way that he approached it was like, I think more non-threatening than if any of us had done it.
No, there's not.
I don't know that we could have come up with a way.
Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I think like literally everybody trusted Adam. Like no one questioned that he was the guy, at least on that tribe, and like many others in the game too, like wanted to work with him. So, I mean, right. Funny, like he's saying stuff like that, or he's just, even you can tell his personality is just a bigger personality. Like even on day one, he was kind of the most vocal from his group, yet no one really thought to look at him like, hey, maybe he's kind of playing it harder than what, you know, we should be prepared to kind of see from him. I think everyone just kind of like, he's a great guy. I think you just want to work with him. So I think he could say whatever he wanted, and it would have been.
I mean, this is where it's hard too, because like, and this is where like some of the, like a little after the game, people were like, oh, like, you know, you trust Adam. Everybody trusts Adam. Like everyone worked with Adam, and it's like, but Bethany and I really were locked in with him. Like it wasn't BS. And we also
you guys like, from Adam's perspective, Adam would have chosen you two. I mean, everyone else, a lot of people would have chosen Adam, but he was from his set. You guys were his 1 and 2 probably.
Right, and so that's where it's hard. I mean, yeah, it was very clear that everybody trusted Adam, but when you're working with him, it's not a concern, right? So I don't think that saying that would have made anyone upset, because I think we all were feeling that desire to play, and that just allowed us to.
Well, I think he's the one person not gets away with it, but is the right person to bring it up, because like you said, you want to start talking to people. You can't just sit here and make jokes around the fire. Your hours are gone. You're losing daylight, you know, and you got to do this. Mm-hmm. It's funny that Ryan brought that up about everybody trusting Adam, because there was also that situation in the other camps, because everybody was working with Sunday. Sunday, like Austin said, Sunday was playing the game, playing the mother game, the social game, the Sunday game. Everybody liked Sunday, including most of the women that I got to talk to on Friday, and everybody liked LJ. Everybody wanted to play with LJ. LJ was locked in with the Acorns, and they wanted to work with LJ. So it's neat that Adam was also the same one. Each tribe had this different perspective, and I feel blessed that I've been involved the last 3 years that I get to see this. Each year is different, and it's so cool that this happens.
I think for me also, like especially because they were spread out across the 3 tribes, like I didn't have any connection, like strong connection with LJ. Like at the merge, I wanted to get LJ out. I wanted to get Carolyn out. I didn't have a connection with I mean, I did with Sunday, so that's a separate one. But like so Adam and I think each of the survivors became like the icon, or like the mascot of the tribe. I mean, they were definitely playing, don't get me wrong, but like you kind of needed that big figure, that Titan, to like pull people in and take out the other big Titan, I think, is how it kind of worked out, because they started on those different tribes.
Yep, exactly. So anything else happened Friday night before we get to Saturday and all the immunity challenges?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing was that like we knew that, you know, there was a risk that we would be down to like 3 or 4 people by the end of Saturday. So we kind of, I think, locked in a number at that point, saying like me, Austin, Adam, and then Liza. We thought that if we got decimated, we'd get to there, and then we would take it from there. So we at least had a couple votes of movement going into Saturday. So
that's the thing that's like the biggest piece of advice like I could give, and probably you kind of just gave too, as far as things move so quickly that you don't realize. I mean, you may not realize, but like when you start Saturday, your tribe is maybe of 8 people. There's a good chance you could be down to 4 or 3. So you need to make sure maybe you're not the number 1, but you got to be like number 2 and 3. If you have like a 5, not a 5, you have to have a 3, but in that 3, like a 1 and 2. I mean, it's just, you got to be prepared to basically be the last one standing in your tribe, because like we saw this year, the one tribe did get down to 2, where had you not been in that 2, you'd have been out.
Yeah, and it can happen really easily, and the thing is it happens so quickly. So like once you get to Saturday, if you don't have those numbers locked in and you don't have the relationships, like there's not a whole lot you can do once the numbers start to dwindle. It's very difficult to come up with anything and to pull anything out of a hat when you have 30 seconds before tribal to come up with an idea.
Right. And so far, we've never seen a swap be like someone's saving grace. Like if you're on the bottom going into Saturday morning, you got to hope you win, or you might be out of the game quickly.
Hello. I know that feeling. But yeah, that's a great point in that you don't have 2 days to make your decision. In comparison to Survivor, this is a crash course. And you've got, like you said, it's a great point. You need to have your first 4 picks. So everybody knew Dave was safe except for Dave, because I think he was nervous all day Saturday.
Yep.
So, or at least he was safe for the first couple trials until you get to a later one. So what happened Saturday? Who was the first one gone from Umpe?
Our legend, Susie. Look, we got the wristbands. I mean, this is 2 different Susies, but yeah. So there were 2 things with Umpe for me. Bethany, I'll let you talk about one of them. The first was that there are 2 things that really defined us as a tribe that made us really tight. One was that Susie gave us a really easy first vote. She spent all of Friday night kind of like coaching us and cheering us on and being like a mother to the tribe. And I mean, she was really awesome. I know like maybe from the production side, it was frustrating that she wasn't playing the game hard, but like her story was really genuine. Her connection with Adam and their shared loss was really cool, really inspirational. And so when she then went first, it was also an easy first vote for everybody but Dave. But I think it really did unite us and give us an easy thing so that everybody felt like part of the tribe and didn't feel on the bottom. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was the match, or the lighter thing, which Bethany can talk about.
Yeah. So I actually do think that like bonded us a lot. I don't remember exactly when in time that was. But so what had happened was there was a contraband lighter that had gotten snuck to Susie that someone had overseen on production, and we got kind of called out on it, I guess. And Susie had passed off that lighter at the last second to me, and then she got called out to kind of have a takeaway discussion. So Susie disappears, and she's like off on the side. And then all of a sudden, as we're having our conversations, like people start to disappear one by one. And all of a sudden, I'm the only person from my tribe, like standing on a trail. I'm like, well, this is terrifying because I'm all alone here and I don't know what just is going on. And then eventually I get called up and they ask, do you have a lighter? And I just pull it out of my pants and I hand it over because I'm not trying to get kicked out of this game. And it's not a big deal to me. And then I realized that my entire tribe is sitting there along this pathway, and everyone had told the same story. Even though everyone knew, they were all like, I don't know. I know nothing. I have no information. And I think that it probably sucked for you guys on the production end to have something like this happen. But for us, it was a bonding moment to know that like we could trust each other and we would take care of each other, even though we just met each other like 12 hours before. But it gave us something to hold on to, like this shared experience where everyone was kind of faced with something that was a little scary, and everyone came out with the same story, I guess. Austin, does that?
Yeah, I think I was the first one, and I was like, I don't know. And everybody kept doing it one by one, and I was just hoping that you would just give it, and it would kind of validate that we all just didn't know, and you knew, and I was just like, it really, to me, I was sitting there seeing every person come down the line, and I was like, this is a moment for the tribe. Like this is something that bonds you together. It's just unspoken trust, and it really like got us a sense of camaraderie that was finalized when Susie kind of helped bring us together.
Well, it was kind of definitely an awkward moment for everybody involved, but yeah, I'm glad it came out with the way that Bethany did it, because it had we not been given the information we need to know, it would have gotten kind of ugly. So thank you, Bethany, for doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I talked about this like 2 hours ago, but I mean, I'd been without the fire for one night. It's not gonna end the game for me. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
It just ruins the integrity of it. I mean, like you could, like, it's not that hard. Yeah. It just, you don't want to feel like you cheated to get to the end.
Advice for everybody: don't steal. Well, there's no reason to steal, and this was not even like, it wasn't an intentional steal. It was, so just don't.
Also prove that we will find out. Like, you can't sneak stuff. We have people watching you 24/7, pretty much
all the time. All the time. Yeah. But
So
I mean, in the end, it was a good moment for our tribe. And I think that it really like gave us that something outside of the challenges that a lot of the other tribes didn't have that kind of shared experience and trust with each other. So I think that helps you going into a challenge. And it proves that like we obviously looked like the loser tribe going in, and Saturday turned out like really rock solid.
So you had the lighter bonding moment, and then you had the domination and challenges bonding moment where you only went to travel twice, and you know he's going to ask, why did Alex have to be the first one to go after Susie?
Because Austin hates us all. We were like this close to like that merge night confessional, like one more confessional from Alex, but
nah. For me going into that tribal, I figured Dave or Alex, and I was just going to take whatever name was given to me at that point. And based on where I was in the line, it was, I think, Dave was first, and then Candace, and then me. So my goal was that whoever I was voting for, to make sure that Candace had the information. And that was where my perspective was going. So the first name that I heard was Dave, and I was like, fine, I don't care. We have 12 seconds to get to the stumps, and if you want to do Dave, then we'll do Dave. But then I heard Alex, and Austin was the one that initiated that. So you want to go into your reasoning?
So yeah, this was a complicated one, and I feel like this was like important in the sense that well, because I had the three. I mentioned the Friday night, Dave, Alex, and I had a three, and that was my way of trying to like keep Dave and Alex in the fold, at least like them thinking they were in the fold. Dave obviously did not feel that way, but I was like kept trying. Like I told him like be patient, and Dave was kind of like blowing his game up a little more. Like he was saying to the girls like you have no reason to trust me, and like all kinds of like I don't remember the exact lines, but like there were things that were definitely sticking out, and I was like, oh Dave, like come on, just hold strong, because I wanted to take him, I wanted to stay loyal to him.
Yeah.
And but Alex, I mentioned that at that random switch, with where we picked the no food tribe, Alex was really pushing for LJ's tribe. And so going back to the later thing, like I think what happened was it bonded us together, whereas the other tribes had their bonds from their initial tribes, but we needed something. And so Alex just kept worrying me because of when he talked about LJ's tribe, he like had talked to LJ about the legacy advantage that first day. I saw him talking a lot on the guys' tribe. So I had red flags. And on Friday night, I wanted to try to give Dave a chance. So I started telling Bethany and Adam and Liza about the things I had seen about Alex, because I didn't know if I wanted to end up keeping Alex or Dave, but I wanted to have the option, and I knew that Dave was a more obvious target. But I felt like I could trust Dave more. So I really kind of started to spread that seed. But the issue is on Saturday, because we were so tight and we kept winning, like we didn't have a chance. And I don't think it would have been hurtful for us to really break off and strategize. So we never really came to a decision on it. And from my perspective, I was in the back of the line. I actually thought you guys whispered to me, Alex, and I said, yes, Alex. But maybe you guys were like, didn't say that, or were wondering. I did think Alex was the best decision to go, because I thought that if we proved to Dave twice that he was with us, that he would stay strong. That was my really strong feeling. Yeah.
Alex was 100% the right decision there. But it is one of those things where it is so quickly that sometimes the first name it's just better to stick, especially when you need to make sure that people are understanding what the plan is. So that became a little bit of a crazy situation when we had to kind of switch it up. But I do think it was the right choice.
And to give context, people, like, so we hadn't, like, people were like, oh, you had all day, but like we hadn't figured out the vote yet, and I don't think we should have. I don't think it would have been good for us. So, and then they decided that we were the first tribe to go to tribal. So we walked back to our spot, and then literally 3 seconds later, they said, you're walking, here's your order. So we couldn't even like go talk to our groups. It was just whatever order we were in, which I don't personally like, but that's a separate point. But my advice, people who are playing, would be to not be afraid to reach out and go talk to people at the beginning of tribal, during tribal. Like I had this thing that I wanted the vote to have integrity. So like I didn't want to talk to anybody while people were casting the votes, but everybody else did. So like you got to take advantage of every opportunity you have. And if you have to get up and go talk to people, like if they're going to allow that to happen, and if you're not going to have any time, like just do it. But luckily we locked in the vote on Alex, and I feel really bad because Alex is awesome, and I don't know what the long-term game would have been for him, but I think he definitely would have explored his other options more than Dave would have.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the game, I've heard him tell me that he would have flipped on us. So it was, in the end, good that we stuck with Dave.
Yeah.
Kept him
It's
around.
funny y'all mention all the whispers and all the side talks, because y'all are sneaky when you do that, but everybody sees it that's not in the game, and it's which is fine because we're not in the game. But it seems like another thing that you don't want to do is be the flag bearer, because you go first and you're not really in any conversation. And I saw Dave being the flag bearer several times, and I thought, is this Dave's tribal? Is Dave leaving on this tribal? And I didn't get to talk to you guys a lot. Ryan, I think, spent more time with you guys, and I was always, but because he was always 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet in front of the group while you guys are turning and talking. I said, yep, there's all the little vote conversations. So it's kind of neat.
That was a huge thing for me too, was going into tribal. Like, there were maybe 1 or 2 tribals where they told us where we were supposed to sit. But then the rest of the time they just had us walk in and we could sit wherever we wanted to. So, I mean, 90% of the time, depending on where I was in the group, I always picked a seat that was like somewhere in the middle, because I knew that at least, and I tried to like block off people that I needed to like take care of, I want to say, like people that I didn't want to be having any outside conversations. If you cut them off from people that could sway them, then you kind of stop those conversations from happening at tribal, when those conversations are going to happen at tribal when there's no locked in vote going in. If that makes sense.
So go ahead.
I think Dwayne has a question.
Thank you. So Austin, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I think I kind of caught a little bit of you saying you didn't want to talk during tribal because you didn't want to mess with the integrity of the game. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, not during tribal, during when people had already started voting.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, okay. But still, I guess my question is the game changes, right? So you look at Borneo, and the integrity of the game was to not make alliances, right? So, but someone stepped out and started making alliances, and it changed the game. This past season in Survivor, people started talking like crazy during tribal council. Is that changing the integrity of the game, or is that evolving the game? So I don't know that, would you have really been messing with the integrity of the game, or would it have been you saying, you know what, I'm going to take control and change things around just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like, I still was watching, and I still, like, would make nods and things if I had to. So I wasn't, like, perfect or anything. But the thing is, like, and this is probably me being closed-minded because I hosted my own game, but, like, that was the one thing I always locked down talking during votes. Because to me, like, just because somebody votes first, like, once someone starts voting, to me, like, that's a time where there shouldn't be any talking, because they have no, like, it shouldn't be an advantage to be the last person to vote, especially if, like, they tell you where to sit. Like, that's just, to me, that's, like, a pure unfair thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I bet CBS would not allow talking once the voting starts.
Yeah, that's the sense I always got. I don't know if that's true, but that's, to me, like, that's the sacred time, like, because it's a direct disadvantage to be voting first then. And you don't necessarily have a choice where you're sitting.
I think in general, people kind of went with that. I mean, I think that the conversations in tribal were definitely more rampant than in a normal season of Survivor, maybe not this last one. But once the vote started, you know, in exception of a few instances, it was like everyone's like looking down and being serious about it.
Yeah.
Well, then my apologies, because I felt
it's a valid question.
But I thought you were talking about talking during tribal. I didn't know you were talking about talking during the votes. So So absolutely, that'd be kind of like production needs to go in there and go, shut up. All right, thank you. I'll just go back to listening.
Get out of here, Dwayne.
Yeah. I'm not worthy of the crown. Winter is coming.
So, go back behind the curtain.
Okay. Winter's here, in case you missed it. So we had our first Saturday night immunity challenge, individual immunity challenge. I don't even remember who wins. Who won the Saturday night immunity challenge? Carolyn won. Mama C. Then we go back to camp for some confessional. So what was going on when y'all went back to camp?
A lot of discussions.
No, really?
A lot of discussions. People were just like scattering everywhere. Like, it was hard to keep track of what was going on. I mean, there were conversations with like every combination of person that you could have imagined.
Did you have any confidence, though, taking 6 of your Saturday dominating tribe? You guys took 6 people into that merge. How did that feel?
We knew once we won that challenge that got us to the majority that we were in a pretty powerful spot. And we did it one before the actual last challenge. So, like, we were really set in that regard. And we actually, the big thing that happened was while they were setting up the merge challenge, we locked in a plan. And we said, we can talk to whoever we want. We can strategize. It's okay. We trust each other, and we're locking in us as 6. We're locking in the 6, and not only that, we're locking in a plan so that if all hell breaks loose, like, we are set. That was a huge thing, given how crazy that night was.
So it was your true intention then to always that 6 to go to the end, or was there anybody you kind of like wanted to work with on other sides?
I think that it was kind of a good plan for us. I mean, we had the numbers, so why not lock it in? I think that, at least from my perspective, I felt good with Austin and Adam and Liza at the time going into that, but that didn't necessarily mean that was going to be that we needed to round out the 6 as like a 6 going forward. I had a good relationship with Nick C, and I wanted to work with him, and had it worked out differently, I think that I would have been open to that opportunity, and I think that other people would have been open to different opportunities.
I think the biggest thing, at least from what I was watching, had the Tinder tribe kind of been into the merge differently. I think had Katie and Sunday been there over, say, like Nick and Steve, I think they kind of had the connections, like Sunday to Adam, Bethany, you and Katie. I think that was kind of what I think it was potentially going to stir up the merge a lot more than versus what we kind of got.
And me and Sunday.
And you and Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think part of that too was that, like, once we got to that merge situation, there really weren't a lot of girls left, other than the girls on my tribe, and then we had Carolyn, and I think that was it. And so the thing that concerned me with starting to try and work with Tinda was I don't want to be like, I liked working with like Austin and Adam as like strong guys who would be more of a target than I would. I thought that was a good position for me at the time, but I didn't want it to be me versus 8 dudes. Like, that's not really a good look for me. I don't think that ends well in any way. And so that was something that concerned me. So had even just Katie been able to pull over into the merge, then I would have had one other girl that I felt like I could work with, and then I would have been more willing to make different situations happen. But at that point, it was a little bit more difficult.
The way that first vote went too, I mean, was going at the 6-5 split there, because we're kind of getting it. I mean, that's kind of how it has to go now, is kind of what ended up happening there.
Right. Like, the huge thing for me was, and Bethany and Adam and I, all 3 of us talked about, like, hey, we like this 6, but, like, we all wanted to play. We didn't want to sit there and do a pagong if there wasn't an absolute reason to. And I remember the 2 of us talking about, like, we'd be willing to flip earlier. We'd be willing to make a move. And for me, the idea was that because the plan was to tell, like, people to vote. The vote was John, to flush the legacy or whatever, and then we were going to get Steve out. And we kind of started to plant the seeds of that, but we never got to finalize it because the vote was quick. But my thought was that, there'd be a 3-2 vote on the other side, 6-3-2. Steve would be gone, and Nick C and Nick H would be free agents. And at 9, we would get John or Carolyn out next. And at 9, me, Adam, and Bethany would take Nick C and Nick H and go. That was my plan before the vote happened. I don't know about how you felt, but that was like one of my thoughts.
Yeah, that was definitely, I think, the thought. I mean, the vote, I think, maybe materialized faster than we thought it was going to be, and we didn't necessarily have the time to lay the groundwork that we wanted to. And we basically had the time from camp to getting up to the corral to have conversations, and I just don't think that we had the opportunity and the time. And Carolyn and John grabbed the Tinda boys and took them fast. Yeah. And so at that point, then we're going into a 6-5 vote, which kind of doesn't really give us a whole lot of room for maneuverability.
And I wanted to tell Nick, and at least Nick C, a plan to give him something. But I had to spend that whole time walking up talking to Liza about not flipping the vote from Steve to Nick C, because she was like freaking out that Nick C was doing something, and I had to like really convince her like, we can't do this. There's no time. So like there was no chance. We had to solidify the 6. We almost like lost it there. And I was talking to Dave a little bit beforehand, so like it was really crazy.
Yeah, and I think I was talking to Candace and somebody else just to try and like solidify Steve. Yeah. So that we all knew at least like that we had our 6 going in the right direction. Is that
so actually Nick H just was in the chat room. He says the Tindas never wanted to work with John and Carolyn. We were looking for basically any other possible options. I think like you were saying, had you had the time to talk to them and offer them something, they may have jumped on board with you, and it'd have been a different story.
Right. I think that because it happened so quickly, our number one priority was like making sure that our 6 was like locked in with the plan, and we didn't really have time to explore our other options like we necessarily wanted to.
And once the 650 happened, it was us versus them. Like it just was.
The walk to that nighttime tribal was one of the most chaotic walks I'd ever seen. It was hilarious from my side, watching people run back and forth trying to talk. And as Steve and Nick are trying to talk, you can tell they're trying to walk, not lose pace, but trying to talk. Here comes Adam, walks up right beside him and tries to get into the conversation. At least by listening, I'm like, that's so smart. You know, that's confidence also that he had in you two, obviously, at that point, that he could leave you and go find out what else is going on. And that's kind of what you got to do on those walks. I thought it was a great plan to get you guys out in the middle of the night for a tribal council. It was one of the best setups I think they've ever done. And if you haven't seen it online, you got to look at the pictures of the video.
It's really cool.
It is a great tribal. Even Adam came up to vote and goes, "This is the most like the real thing that I've seen this whole weekend." And he was just in all of it.
Yeah, I gave John Andy crap for not making that happen last year, but you know.
So Steve goes the first night. I have the privilege of heading back to Ponderosa with Steve, which was at the Crowleys. He actually got to shave and clean up and eat and spend the night at their house.
That's a good video too, by the way.
That is a great video. And then you guys head back to camp. Anything else happened that night before we get to Sunday?
We kind of go ahead, Bethany.
No, you're good.
Well, we had a little whoa, like what just happened? Like, we're 6, we're good. They just tried to get us out. Like, that was definitely a unifying moment again for the group. Like, especially seeing Dave pull through and everybody like felt really good about it. That like, wow, they really did unite against us. Like, they weren't fractured. We had a reason to stay strong, and it really did become us versus them. Once we kind of settled that, it actually became a really fun night. Like, that was that might be my favorite night in terms of just like hanging out and chatting. But yeah,
so that nighttime tribal pretty much locked you 6 back in.
I think there was just no other option.
The craziest thing is, I think that the
what was the other 4? I'll go finish.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think that the perception was that we were like not exploring our options, not thinking about the game. But you know, at that point,
did they like try to approach you at all in like a sense of like, whoops, that was my bad, I didn't really mean to. I mean, because if I was me and I was like in like that minority shoes, I would have maybe gone to like you and 2 of you and been like, that was against Adam, I still want to work with you guys. Was there anything like that, or was it pretty much just like, you got us?
Nick C definitely, so Nick C definitely approached me afterwards about it, but at that point it makes it really difficult because, you know, I think Adam and Austin were my like ride or dies, and for you to say like, oh, it was against somebody else, it's like, well, that doesn't really work with the way that I'm playing it. It doesn't really work with what I'm doing here. So, you know, I'm sorry that it didn't work out, but you know, we've got something good here and I need to like stick strong. But
and for me, like I did walk back with the other 4 kind of like, I was a little bit, I walked back with Liza at first, and then it became like I kind of stumbled into the other 4's conversation, and like I guess Nick C was talking to me, but he seemed like really disappointed in me, and I was like, you guys just all voted for us, like I don't know what, and he was like, you didn't tell us anything, and I was like, I didn't get a chance to, and like John was like trying to be classy, but was also like definitely a little mad, and was like trying to like guilt me into it, like, oh, you're just gonna pick us all up now. So I mean, it just like, and then I saw our group was going together. Like, it was definitely tense. Like, there was some real tension between the sides, and at that point I was like, well, like I just don't have another chance to work with another group now. It's us versus them, and you can't be the sole person flipping.
This is the beauty of the merge night. This is why it's my favorite episode of every season of Survivor. I love the merge and the chaos that comes with it, because we get Steve voted out 11th on Saturday night. We get Nick H voted out 10th, and it's a pagonging from there. Oh, wait a minute. It's not a pagonging from there. We go to the final 9 tribal council. So what exactly happened at the final 9 tribal council?
Well, I think you're going to start with the whole night, because there was a lot going on there. Us 6 have been talking because there have been confessionals spread out throughout the night, and I think that without getting into too much detail on that, like there was a general feeling of like that people were not feeling like they were supposed to be going with the 6, and they felt like kind of that they were being told it wasn't the right thing to do, or that they were kind of not feeling great. And I, like, for me, from my perspective, like, I had really had a lot of my time with Liza that night, and I was like, me and Liza are set, and like we knew we weren't going to take Adam to the end. So it was going to be me, Bethany, and Liza as the 3, and that was genuinely my 3 at that point. And I had like talked to Liza. We'd walked all the way back down the hill. Like, she'd almost fallen. I had like saved her a couple times, and I thought we were really good. She had told me about her and Nick Steve being together from high school, and so everything to me seemed like it was genuine. And at that point, I feel like it was. But overnight is kind of when everything changed, and I guess people had time to reset and think about what their place was in the 6 and whether that made the most sense. Bethany, do you want to talk about your perspective on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think that we kind of on the same page there with our 4, and me, you, and Liza. And I think I definitely had more trust in you, but you were very good with Liza, so I was comfortable with her as our 3rd going in. But you know, I don't exactly know what happened overnight, but something happened.
I know. I think maybe when I was at confessional. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that part of it was like, you know, I felt for me like, and I think a lot of other people felt this way after the post tribal council confessionals, that, you know, we were playing the game wrong, and that we, you know, and I personally think that there's a lot of ways to play Survivor. There's some that are like sexier than others and flashier, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a winning game. And I think that there was kind of like a little bit of an undertone that our 6 was the wrong way to play the game, and I think that kind of got into people's heads maybe.
So that's my question, because it almost comes up every season that somebody in the top 4 forgets to make 5 and 6 feel like they're in the top 4. And 5 and 6 wake up to that point. And is that, where was Liza in that 6?
See, that's the weirdest thing from this season in my perspective, was if I thought, and maybe Austin, I thought that she was our 3. Like, I thought we were 3. So like 3 seems awesome to me. Like, that gives you a chance to fight your case in any normal season.
I think
Isn't that what people want?
From talking to Liza a little bit after the game, I think she realized she was like the top 4, top 3. I think she worried about getting to the end and then not being able to say, here's what I did better than the 2 sitting next to me. I think that kind of contributed to her idea to then go to Austin, was that at least then I could say, I made a move. If I still make it to the end, I guess, stronger. I hate the whole resume thing, but, you know, adding to that versus just kind of, you know, going with the flow and saying my move was just right along, which, I mean, you know, would have got her there probably, but I guess maybe she would have thought that she had a weaker argument to win. And she may not have, but I think in her mind, she felt that it wasn't so much I can't get there. It's like, I don't know if I can win if I do.
Right. So as the person who was let's set up the context. So at final 9, we had a 3-3-2 vote. We were splitting the vote for idols, and Liza decided to switch her vote. So, 3-3-3 vote. She switched her vote, so it was 4-3-2. I got out. Yay, exciting. Blindside hashtag, yeah. So
I just gloss over that. Nice.
Who were you worried had an idol? Who were you worried had an idol that you split the vote?
We hadn't seen idol the whole game, besides the one that I found that didn't count.
Well, it's funny because Bethany just said that, you know, she wanted me there. She was lucky. But if I recall, Austin, I think you said that you actually helped Bethany win that immunity, and had you not,
let's go into this immunity, because Austin did 100% help me. But so did everybody else, because as we go back to the beginning, I love Survivor. I watch all of Survivor, but I could not tell you who was the first vote in X season or who played this many times. I just do not have the trivia. I don't have the trivia on the back of my head. I don't have it. So my strategy in this challenge, because I knew that I'm faster and like more I have more dexterity than a lot of people, was to just follow people that looked like they knew what the questions were. So yes, I followed Austin on the first one, but I followed a bunch of other people on the rest of them, and I just grabbed whatever one that they grabbed. And I think I only answered maybe 2 of those questions on my own.
And I got them, but my issue was, advice for everybody, the one thing I would have prepared was untying knots, because I couldn't freaking untie knots. And I was like 15 seconds behind you, and I spent like probably a minute and a half on one of the knots instead of just ripping it open or untying it. And like, that still haunts me. Yeah.
I was quick on the running, and I was quick on the untying, and I went in order of whatever, like someone who I felt like was better at Survivor trivia. I just watched where they were going. I ran behind them, grabbed whatever they grabbed. So I didn't waste any time reading the questions or the answers. So it saved me a lot of time.
And the thing was, like, that's where, going back to the thing about like looking and having tunnel vision, looking for clues and idols, like I was so sure that there was going to be a clue in those bags, and I was like keeping my eyes open for them, people dropping them, an idol clue, and I think they just didn't put it in that challenge. Like, it just wasn't there this year.
So
like,
who were you think? So you thinking that an idol was going to come out? Did you think any specific person may have had an idol?
We thought maybe Nick C. I mean, because it hadn't been played the first 2 votes, like it was definitely possible that it wasn't, but there wasn't enough time to be sure. So I thought maybe Carolyn. Everybody had been looking that morning. So I don't know how much you want to get to that morning, but everybody was looking for idols. People were looking at people looking for idols. I went the opposite way from everybody, and I found an idol making kit, but it wasn't valid, so I didn't have an idol.
So you weren't locked in on one. You were just worried in general because, like you said, it hadn't been played, and you're just splitting the votes for safety.
Yeah, and we had a 6. So I mean, again, it's like, do you just not split the votes? But I was more worried about Dave forgetting who he was voting for than I was about somebody flipping, to be honest.
No, I mean, that was a huge part of it too. Like when you get to a situation like that and you only have so much time, it's like, what's the risk in making sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So with this vote, like, because I think we could probably say maybe the next vote in terms of playing the advantage, but this in terms of like a pure like vote flip or whatever was like the biggest vote of the season in terms of it was the biggest, at least the most surprising. And like, I get Liza's perspective of wanting to make something and take a stand and make your name in the game. I certainly get that, and I don't think that it was like a bad notion for her to have. The thing for me is like, and I've again thought about this a lot, obviously, probably way too much, but like, I felt so good with her the night before, and I felt like I probably trusted her more than anybody else. So there were 2 things with it. One, I know she talked to Nick C at some point during the night, and I think it might have been when I was at confessional. I don't know. But so I didn't know they prepared that. So that was just something I just was so unaware of. The second thing was like, and Liza said after the game to me, like, if I had known you were going to flip or if I had time, like I would have said something to you. And so to me, I feel like if it's that early, like if you're going to flip on a clear side, you have to do it with one other person because you can't survive. Like, yeah, you gave yourself a resume, but you become such an obvious target, whether it's the next week or a few weeks after, especially because she wasn't flipping it into a majority. So that's where I feel like it's hard in Survivor because it's all about timing. And I think her sense of what she needed to do was right. But I think that maybe she could have waited. I don't know if there would have been a better opportunity with an easy split like that. But like, if it was to save me, I would have flipped with her. I totally would have at some point. She may have been able to get Dave to flip with her, I think. Keep yourself safe with one other person because I think it's really easy to flip with another person and have a little coalition. When you're that one person making that move so early, you really just put a target on your back.
And flipping into a non-majority is a really tough situation because I think that, especially at that point, we were all blindsided. And so there was a lot of like, you know, we're going to go down with the ship if we have to. Like I would have straight up pulled a rock if there was a chance that it was going to work. Because at that point, you know, it's all about, you know, as we were saying earlier, like things that bond you together, like being blindsided against as a group. I think that was another bonding moment. That's like, we all have this like common experience. Now let's all get together and, you know.
And I totally didn't see it coming because one, I thought that like if nothing else, Adam was this meat shield in front of me and you, and they've been talking to him. But I guess maybe Liza like I don't know why they didn't go for that. I know they just kind of threw out my name. Maybe they were just frustrated that it hadn't been working out or it didn't work out with Adam before. I don't know. Maybe someone else can shed light on that. But I thought that was there for one, and two, like I don't know. It just like it was just so shocking to me that it would happen that early and at that point, because the other three weren't going to take Liza to the end, especially at that point. Like they've gone through the same thing. They've been the underdogs. They were going to cut her at 4 or 5 for sure. So I just never like that. And I even Ryan was there. I thought in my whole exit interview that it was probably Candace. Like Liza was like a second option, but I thought it was Candace. Like I was like, oh, maybe the honesty and loyalty thing just wasn't real. And I never really talked to her that much about strategy. So I was like, it's Candace.
Well, it's funny because in that moment too, I had no idea either. I thought it was like Candace or Dave. I'm like, your guess is mine.
Yeah, because I really thought like I mean I really did trust Liza, and I think she knew that. So I just didn't think that I would be the one she would want to turn on.
I don't know. Looks like
all right, let me read her chat wing comment.
Yeah.
She says in the chat room, she says, at that point, I was flipping into a tie. I was aware that the next vote would have been a tie without Adam's advantage, and I was willing to take the chance of making it through the tie. Also, I tried to get Dave and Candace to flip, but neither of them would with such short notice.
Right. And that's fair. I mean, I respect that she tried to get other people to flip. I don't know if there's any. Maybe they just told her my name and it was like she was just going to be. I know she said she was just going to make a move regardless.
If this was spread out over weeks, that would have been an overly hyped episode because that changed the game for a lot of people. Not only for you, but for John, getting John to final 3, getting Carolyn to final 6. I mean, that really changed her flip changed the game for people. Unfortunately, not for her, but it changed the game for other people, and it killed the begonging. You know, what could have been a begonging. So it was production was kind of going, hey, something just happened. You know, the game just got flipped. So sorry it was on you, but you were fun at the jury. I enjoyed over there talking to you, but still, I'm sorry it was you. But it was really a game changing move that just turned the whole game over.
Yeah.
So going into that, we now lose Austin as he goes to the quiet, somber jury over there eating bagels and talking nonstop with Steve and Nick and everybody else. So going forward, Bethany, were you worried at all? Or, I mean, Liza was obviously an easy. I guess did the survivors flip on Bethany on the next vote after voting with her?
Yeah, they were pissed. They was like, shame on you.
No, so yeah, the next vote, we went right back to camp or to the porta potties. I don't know. We went up the path, and pretty much immediately we got together as our 4, and we were like, we're sticking strong. We are a 4. You know, Liza was really like having a hard time. I mean, that was a huge move that she had made. But at that point, it was like there's not really any turning back here. So we got into this group, and Adam immediately was like, we got something up our sleeves. Don't worry, everyone. We've got an extra vote. It'll be fine.
So we got a comment from
vote out Liza.
Yeah, we got from the next vote out was Nick C. He said, because he was the next to go after Liza, Austin was a very last-minute decision. We knew Adam had the legacy advantage because of John, and we didn't think you guys would see this coming. So I threw out your name out seconds before Tribal. And then Liza says, yeah, Austin was already chosen, and they wouldn't switch to Adam. Also, there wasn't time. And Austin is getting stuck into the chat room now because he thinks it's the jury. He's going to start commenting in the chat room.
Austin, your time is done here. Your story's over. So it's Bethany and R now.
So I don't mean to rush you, but it seems like a pretty easy vote going forward, except for who won immunity. You basically couldn't vote for them until we get to the final challenge, which is the Bethany challenge. It's a gymnastic balancing challenge.
You know,
can we actually go back to the final 4?
Yes, go for it.
So at final 4, actually, that was like a really uncomfortable vote for me because I felt very confident, honestly, like overly confident / cocky. Pretty much like the whole time I was like pretty convinced that I was going to be there at the end for whatever, I don't know, misdirected reason I had. But when we got to the final 4, and I honestly, like, I don't know if my brain just doesn't do whatever puzzle that was, but I could have just been like twirling in circles and it wouldn't have made a difference because I made no impact in that challenge. And John had won it. And so we go back and we're kind of like having our discussions. And at that point, I realized Candace is like, I would never write his name down. And Dave had promised Candace that he would never write her name down. And I was like, oh, this is going well. Because I was like,
just what you want to hear. Yeah.
I was like, the first moment that I was like, wait, so I'm the only option here. And okay, great. So I turned to John and I said, John Vitea, and I said, what are the tie rolls at Final Four? And he was like, you know, we still pull rocks. And I was like, this is great because I've never lit a fire in my life. So I turned to John Raymond and I was like, you have to vote for Dave with me. Like, we're going to vote for Dave. We'll stick together. Like, you know, I have, you know, we've done so well. Like, we had this like thing where we got you to Final 7 and now you're at Final 4. You've got this great story. Please vote for me. Please vote for me, like with me. And so we get to tribal council and like, he actually votes for Dave with me, which is like a savior, because then we go into a 2-2 tie and I'm somehow safe, even though the other two people had a Final 2 deal. I still don't know how I convinced them to do that, but I was very pleased.
Well, I think that conversation, had you had any other talks with John before that conversation? Any other like voting strategy or any other talks?
So on like merge night, we had, well, so before that too, with like the matching game, I made like an inappropriate comment accidentally, which he thought was very funny. And so I think that we kind of like bonded over that. And then on merge night, we kind of talked for a little bit, and then he taught me how to make a fire. Like, we sat down together and he like went through the whole process and this whole thing. So we kind of had this like little bonding moment of like this, you know, experienced survivor guy, and he's like doing these great challenges. And I really felt like we had like a good connection, even though we never really strictly had any like strategy game talk going on. But I felt like, you know, he was the kind of person that you could trust, and I think he trusted me. And so I knew that I felt comfortable turning to him and asking for the vote, and I felt like he was going to give it to me.
So for all you future players, this is the winner once again, talking about the person that ended up being the swing vote at Final Tribal, the relationship she made with the guy, even though she never worked with him except for the one time she begged him. Other than that, he ends up being the vote that swings the $1 million her way by the end of the weekend. So, hey, that's just, all those relationships count for something. So I wanted to ask you about that. What else did you have with John that got him so on your side at Final Tribal? Because, you know, he didn't get that connection with Dave, but obviously he got it with you. I mean, spending the evening building a fire, especially from somebody that's been out there and done that's pretty awesome that you got that time with him, that he would sit down and even do that with you. I mean, that's a good sign.
Well, and he kind of just asked. He said, who wants to help me build the fire? And I was like, I'll do it. I mean, I've never done it before. I think it'd be a good thing to learn. I hadn't had any experience with him. So we like went on this like long walk through the woods just to like, he's like showing me what kind of things you want to pick up. I mean, it wasn't even like really a strategy discussion. I mean, he asked kind of like, what can I do? And I said, you know, I don't know that you can do anything. Like, it was like an honest discussion like that. But for whatever reason, I think that kind of, we had some sort of connection enough to get him to vote my way. I don't know.
So, but so that was Final Four, and yes, Austin is excited because he's still here. But we get the guy that nobody knew on Thursday night makes it to Final 3 and gets voted out in third place, and we get to Final 2. Yep. How hard was that to vote him out?
It wasn't really. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. No, I really liked him. He was like someone that really surprised me just because I didn't know anything about him. And I really did feel like a sort of connection to him for reasons I can't really explain. But at the end of the day, like, he had this amazing story. Like, this is like a Durham like legend almost, like a guy who's like the first boot, and he makes his way. And I was so impressed with like his competitiveness as well. Like, I mean, guy beat me fair and square in like a number of challenges, and like not gimmies at all, like very physical things that he fought his way through. And it just so happened that like the last challenge was like a cheerleading stunt, which like, I'm sorry to the two dads that were facing me, but it wasn't meant to be anyone's challenge but mine.
It's funny because all day long, just with the way things were kind of lining up, you know, Bethany was looking to be in that final 3 situation, like all day long, like production's going like, Bethany's winning that challenge. I mean, it was basically designed before you even cast Bethany that was she was going to win. A matter of like who's going to be in that final 3 with her, and who's going to be the opponent she takes, because she's got it. I mean, unless she like slips and falls some act of God. I mean, that was pretty much your challenge for sure.
It was funny because when they fell off, Bethany had a look on her face like, "Oh, did we start already? I was just positioned up here."
Well, John too. John was like wobbling the entire. I don't think like Bethany was like a statue. John lasted just as long. I mean, a couple seconds shorter, but he was literally moving the entire time. I mean, like luckily, I couldn't even look at it. I was like dying laughing. Like I had like if Bethany had even like turned around watching him.
No,
lost her concentration because it was so comical.
That was actually really hard because on the very first level, I was like facing his back. And I couldn't, like, based on my eye line, I couldn't see him, but I could see his shadow. And his shadow was like swaying. It was unbelievable. And I like was trying to keep my eyes. I was trying to keep my eyes like focused on one spot, but then you see his shadow like swaying everywhere. And I'm like, wait, this is actually more difficult than it looks. Just because I'm feeling like
for normal people, yes, that was very difficult.
But no, I loved that challenge.
Just to give a toast to John, like we were on that initial, like he was on my first try from day one. Like if we went to a vote like 2 hours into the game, like he might have been first boot again. He was like kind of all over the place. Like I think he was nervous. That first like guys try when we had the 6s, he was like instantly volunteering to be the closer of everything. Adam and I would always laugh about it, like John the closer. And then he like once he I think settled in, like he blossomed into this really amazing, and I'm sure the other podcasts will get into like his game, but really blossomed into this really amazing story. So John was awesome.
Yeah, Bethany's exactly right. His story from Thursday to Sunday was awesome because his cheering section grew as he won challenges. His story would have been tough to beat. And had you taken him, there are a lot of people that think we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I'd be talking to him instead of you. So
I totally, I mean, I 100% agree with that. I think that, you know, he won me over as someone who was trying to get him out. Like, if you can do that, then you're doing something right. And the story itself is phenomenal. So, I mean, it was hard to vote him out just because, you know, you're at final 3, you've made it all this way with these 2 people that I didn't necessarily expect to be sitting there with, but, you know, you still have like this full experience with them. And so it's always going to be difficult, but I knew that there was like no other option for me.
Well, his vote for you was the Adam to Jay vote. I can't beat you, so you got to go. So now down to the final 2 with Dave, and we kind of switch back to Austin. What is the temperature of the jury going into this final 2?
So the whole time when the jury was getting whittled down, everybody was like, "Oh, Adam's gonna win. Adam's gonna win," and then it became, "Oh, John's gonna win. John's gonna win." We thought it was final 3, so we were like, "Wow, John won the game at final 4." And I know a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, it's gonna be Bethany and Dave," and I knew the strengths of both their games. Especially, I felt like I had seen Bethany playing a really good game in the post merge, and so I was sitting there talking with Steve and Nick H, and everybody was pretty open minded about the 2 of them. I thought after the questioning, Steve, Nick, and I all thought that Bethany was like gonna win like 8-1. We were pretty confident. So when it was 5-4, we were stunned. But even I was open minded because I had played with both of them for so long. Dave even longer than Bethany. For me, I know it was really like I definitely, if David like articulated a really coherent strategy the whole game, I think I could have voted for him. I knew I liked Bethany's game and I knew I would feel good about her winning, but I needed to hear it from Dave for him to have a chance. And when he went into the whole thing with The Rock and the fake idol and saving himself with the Susie vote, like that for me, it was like showing a lack of awareness about the game, because he was never in danger on that tribe. And I get that he was on the bottom of that tribe still in a way, but like that Rock was so not influential in the game. And I just love Bethany was so solid. Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of it for me where I was like, I don't really know. I don't know. It was hard to know like what the right things were to say for the right situation. But that definitely threw me off. I was like, why are we going into that when I didn't necessarily feel like it played into like end game situation? But I don't know. I felt like I was like a bumbling fool during that entire time. So I'm glad that it came across strong to someone.
Did you think much about what you would say when you got to final? Before final?
Well, I mean, I thought about it a little bit, but that's the thing that's also difficult is like, you know, I don't think if you've given me like a multiple choice questionnaire with like 100 people on it, there's no way that I would have come up with Dave and John at the end there. Like, it just wasn't in my thoughts. And you can only think about so many strategies in a few hours. Like, there's only so many things you can think about. So I had sort of planned, but then at that point I was just like surprised at where I was and tired and confused a little bit. It's hard to form coherent thoughts at that point.
I think Ryan can attest to that as well. Although he won't say his were incoherent, he'll say his were perfect.
Well, Ryan was perfect. He won 9-0.
8-0, but close enough.
8, sorry.
So
forgot you guys had a final 3.
Yeah.
So we're nearing Tony Vlacho's time on this podcast, about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I want to.
I do talk sometimes.
You do. You did. I know it's surprising people. I was expecting to be done in 35 minutes, so this is good. So with the weekend over and her getting the Bobster, where is the Bobster? Is it not on the shelf behind you? Why isn't it up there?
So I'm all packed. I move in like less than 48 hours, 36 hours. So I'm sitting on the floor right now on some sofa cushions. And my Bobster is safe in a shoebox.
Oh, you got one other souvenir from the weekend. It's on your left shoulder. Do you still have that?
Yeah, can you see it?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Khaleesi.
Getting too involved in the fire making challenge.
If I was really Khaleesi, then I wouldn't have gotten burned.
Well, that's a new running thing. You have to come home with a scar from Durham if you win. I still got one on my legs from that.
If you didn't, then you probably didn't try hard enough.
Exactly.
And if you weren't trying that hard, then the competition must not have been that good.
Or you got voted out pre-jury. That's the scars are always on late Saturday and Sunday. So
there's some mental scars too. Yeah.
Yes, there are emotional as well. So final thoughts. Let me get your final thoughts and your overall reaction. Austin, I'll start with you. Your overall from the weekend. What was it like for you? Did it live up to it? Was it more? What'd you think?
Well, first I want to say that I've thought a lot about what I could have done or what I should have done, and I'm bitter about not winning, whatever. But I will say the one thing I am so not bitter about is that Bethany won. Super deserving. Honored to be on the podcast with her. I mean that genuinely. I really could not be happier for her that she won. So that takes away a lot of my bitterness. I wish I got second almost. But overall with the weekend, it really was a ton of fun. It was a lot more than I even expected. It just being in it, getting to play, going from host to player, it was a really cool transition for me and to kind of test out my skills. And I feel like I showed myself that I did have some of the natural skills in the natural social game that I thought I did. In terms of pieces of advice, and overall takeaways I had, the game really does move so fast. And I mean, maybe one of the things I messed up at the end, which is not being able to observe everything, partially because I had this whole thing going on with an idol, and I wasn't there for the key moment when the flip happened, and so you just always want to be present. I think always be around and be observing and be watching people, and if you're an adaptive person, if you need a plan and you need to set things in advance, then do it. But I think the best people who play, and I think this is what Bethany did really well too, is adapt to the situation that you see, and some outcomes are going to be good for you. Some situations are going to be more beneficial, but you just have to take what's given to you and make the best of it. I know it's cliche, but I really think that's how Survivor is.
How about you, Bethany?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was an amazing experience. I've told everyone I know that if you like Survivor and you've always wanted to play, but maybe like for whatever reason it wasn't, you couldn't get on the show or you didn't think that you could or whatever. Like for me, I never thought that I would get an opportunity to do something like this, and it was an amazing experience. I think I exceeded my own expectations in a million ways. I'm like really, really happy with the way it turned out, obviously, but more so just because like I felt like I fought really hard and I played a good game. I think that, going for other people advice, when I was in the car coming from the airport, I remember the girl, Alex from last season who picked me up, she said her biggest mistake was not talking to enough people. So really it's just trying to be a part of as many conversations as you possibly can. You want to always be moving and always talking because, you never know when the game is going to flip on you, and it does move quickly. So just going with the flow and trying to be as adaptable as possible and making relationships with people if you can is the only way to go, I think.
Ryan, what were your final thoughts on this season, being from your perspective, from winning to coming back on and having a big part of production?
Ryan loves us.
I do actually, yeah. I was kind of in a unique spot. I kind of got to be like during the game, like with a lot of the people. Like I was basically kind of, my role was to be a spy and kind of report back and to sort of knew what was kind of going on with each group or tribe, whatnot. And I got to really kind of know some of the people from the cast, and it was, I mean, not to like diss my own cast, but I would say it was a really strong cast, and I was like, it was just fun group of people. I mean, I kind of liked, the different interactions, and there's a lot of big personalities and different kinds of people. And that's what I've always said about Durham, just in general. It's just like you had this 4-day experience, which is like awesome. But then even winning, like my biggest takeaway is still just like the relationships that I made through this thing. It's the DWSC family. It's a 4-day experience, but like it extends way beyond that. I mean, like I think I literally have spent like up like half my vacation days, if not more than half, in the last 12 months, like with people from this experience. And it's like that 4 little days, it like bonds you for life, and it's the coolest thing. I mean, anyone who's remotely interested, not even just for the Survivor part, but I mean, just to have like the Survivor community of people in your life. I can't recommend the experience enough, and I mean, it's made the last year of my life so much cooler than it probably would have been otherwise. So, I have nothing but great things to say about Durham, and I'm looking forward to going back every year because it's just awesome.
Well, I'll add to the diss wagon in that I still talk to about 90% of the people I played with, love them to death, but each year gets stronger. I think in the casting department, they do a great job. And to me, this year was probably the strongest. Pound for pound, it was from top to bottom. It was Kayla came out of her shell so well by the end of the weekend. She was the one I was worried about. She was so quiet the first night. I don't know if y'all got to talk to her at all, but she was so quiet. By the end of the night, she by the end of her trip, she was great. She had a plan. She was working on it, but from top to bottom, this was really a strong cast. And like Ryan, I enjoyed getting to meet a lot of you. I got to follow the women's tribe on Friday while he was following the men's tribe. And it was so much fun. Super bunch of nice people, and just a great job by the production, including Ryan, of picking these people and putting this weekend together. And it was just super fun. So that's what is anybody else got anything else I want to add? Because okay, so otherwise, I think Dwayne's back, and we're all gonna say goodbye. Don't hang up yet. As soon as he goes off the air, then we'll say a final few words to each other before we hang up. So Dwayne, welcome back.
Did we wake you up?
Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging around. If you'd like to become a D&D patron, head over to our website or go to stwdd.com/patron. Thank you, Austin, for being on the show. You were amazing. Hello.
Not my microphone.
Well, your microphone was crap, but you were amazing.
Thank you. Do my best.
Thank you, Ryan, for being on the show. Oh, mighty, wonderful king.
Always a pleasure, Dwayne. Thank you.
That's right. David, thanks for being on the show. It was nice having you.
I was supposed to be here, so go ahead.
Saving the best for last. Bethany, thank you for being on the show.
Oh,
and tell your cat I said
hi.
We're not worthy.
Tell your cat I said hi. I absolutely love cats. All right. Well, y'all all got final words, so I'm going to give my final word. Obviously, next year's cast will be the best because hopefully I'll be on it. All right. So that's it. Thanks for being part of the D&D family. We love you. See ya, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for having me. Peace.